Okay. Good evening, and it's to welcome you. Good evening again, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to today's session, where going to handle the topic on customer development this week. And with us, we have three of our mentors. I'll come around to introducing them properly. But our agenda is the typical. We start with the introductions, and then we have the working group reports. So the presidents of the working groups should be ready to give us an update on activities within their group, and then we proceed to hot seats, whereby founders are going to pitch. Please note that you're pitching, you've done this as an assignment, and so that's the pitch that we expect you to video pitch. Yes, so that's what we expect you to pitch, and the mentors will rate you, will provide feedback rotationally, and will also rate you. Note that every week your pitch is different as you begin to add more content to it. So every week is a different pitch, which is uploaded to YouTube unlisted and also uploaded to your dashboard. And then when you come for the sessions, you are expected to pitch. All founders are expected to be ready to pitch at any point in time. After the pitch session, then we go into mentor presentations, and the mentors will speak to the topic from their different perspectives. Thereafter, we'll have a Q&A, and then the session will come the topic. And then this evening, we're going to have also general discussions, based on, any other questions you may have, or, challenges you might have. But I'd quickly like to make some comments regarding the following. Your dashboard, you see that quite a number of people struggling, navigating your dashboard. So myself, all the information you need to be successful in this program, everything is in that dashboard. So you just need to find a way to navigate. We've created a video, which we've shared in your WhatsApp group. And please, try to, familiarize. And we don't have time because it's moving already very, very fast, and there are lots and lots of activities that you need to accomplish within a very short time in this program. So your working groups, you reach out to your working group members to also guide and help and assist. So that's why you are in a work. Some already have their dashboards, actively, they know how to operate it. So please relate. That's why we've created that avenue and opportunity. Also, we have the office hours, especially with either admin or any of the directors, so that you can bring up, any of these issues that you have. But concerning your dashboard, that can easily be resolved within your working groups. And then your are not desk reviews, tasks. They are mainly field work and field assignments. And then because of the methodology of this program, if you really want to be successful, it's based on feedback. And that's why we have the feedback mechanisms, which is built into the program. So you have the one-on-one office hours with directors, mentors. There you get feedback on your assignments, and then you get onto the field, get out of the room onto the field. There were 2 questions that were not properly answered in most of your assignments. That's number 2 and number 5, customer discovery and customer interviews. You cannot build a product without knowing who your customers are, without conducting interviews, without knowing whether they are ready to buy. That is what that exercise is. We need a list of their names. We need the kind of ask them. We have given you templates. We have given you guides. Use them. If you do not do the exercises that involve customers, that's why it's coming up as one of the very first exercises. You know, your product will not be the validation. You will struggle. You will struggle with that. And so today, you know, we've already started introducing you to customer development gradually from last week. So this is going to dig deeper. You know, the mentors will speak to the following, you know, on how to identify real customers and ensure that they have a real problem to solve. Number 2, they will also look at the best tactics that you need to identify, that you need to use to identify target customers and encourage them to be interviewed. You how to know if people are telling you the truth or just being polite. Also, how to identify and test your assumptions in a customer interview. How to process and respond to feedback from customer interviews, and how to know when you are focused on a good idea or when you need to abandon an idea. If there are no customers for what's your solution, then there's no point proceeding. Okay? There's no point proceeding. And that is why you need to take this. This is one of the most critical assignments that you're going to have to do during this program, customer development, or already starting from last week, number 2 and number 5. So we've made comments. So all founders are expected to review their number 2 and number 5. Let's see the spreadsheet on your customer potential list, the interview questions that I've mentioned. We want to see all of those questions. And then when you go to office hours and you meet, mentors can give you more help and more support. And they are also encouraged knowing that you're doing the work. Business is about it's not about today's session and the presentations are made, you have the slides, and that's that. This program is feedback, and that's why we have mentors who are taking out their time, who already have the experience, knowledge, make this thing over and over again. So please, let's your hot pitch. I already mentioned your hot seat pitch is also not theoretical exercise. The whole idea is yes. So for your hot seat pitches, you know, so imagine, like I said, you're with, you know, an investor, and you are, you know, what do you do or what are you working on? And you start to pitch. So as possible, and that's what will elicit an invitation. So a lot of you founders are all, talking about fundraisers, you need money. Your presentation is key, and it starts with your pitch. It starts with your pitch. So again, you may have some asking to send them a video. So I've seen some videos with very, very poor lighting, poor background. So something you're
Okay, sorry, I think Lady A has been bumped out. So let's just, connection will return shortly. We're trying to fix some network challenges here. She'll be back shortly now. Once again, sorry.
Yeah, so sorry. So just migrating. So for FI, I mean, tips, for success is like, so we keep migrating, so everyone needs to have that kind of backup. So I think I've said a little bit more about, just my general observations. And yes, finally, I think I was chatting with one of the founders and, complaining about workload. And I said, well, we're just starting. This week, your workload is going to be about 15 hours. So it increases. You're building your business, you're building your company, and it's that tasking. So within the next 4 months, there are metrics, targets and goals that we want you to accomplish within the next 15 weeks of this program. And so it's going to cost you some sleepless nights for the time being. And so you need to make that sacrifice. You need to make that sacrifice. I'm saying all of this in the presence of the mentors because they are making sacrifices to also, out of their busy schedules to come and help and support. And we have a nation to build and a country to build. Your businesses are going to be creating jobs, creating solutions, solving problems. So what you are doing, we applaud your effort, but it also takes much more. This model, this methodology is not the typical. Okay, so we leave Nigeria and we go to Harvard, we go to Stanford, we go to XYZ for further studies. So, but Stanford, they have brought this to us. FI was founded in a Stanford classroom. Adioresia and Elon Musk are schoolmates, class roommates, still friends up to today, doing business together. SpaceX is the partner of Founder Institute. So these are the people who are behind Founder Institute. So that is the template. So it is wisdom, to plug into it and let's leverage on, the resources therein. And, we'll all try our best to do the best that we can. But a lot of work is required, a lot of commitment. You attend your sessions. Investors will not back any founder. Everything is being rated. All the ratings are there in your dash at the back end. So investors will not put their money. They are not looking for, they don't have free money. So they want money. They want to back businesses and startups, you know, and get a good return for their investment. So if you are not present at your business, if you don't have time to do what you need to do to build your company to be well established, then you will not get the funding. So you'll continue to run around in circles. So I just thought, you know, it's good we understand what this is all about. So thank you for listening, and we'll proceed with the tonight's agenda. So welcome again to everyone. Welcome, mentors. I'll quickly go through the profile of the mentors. We did share that on LinkedIn already, but let me go back and, you know, so we have Katie Mapondera. Software companies with prospective investors, partners, and mentors. So Katie, you're very, very welcome. We're happy to have you. And she's also one of, you know, quite supportive mentors. Also with us is Faiz Bashir. Faiz is also from day one, when FI Abuja started, he's been there. And he's the CEO of FlexiSAP, founded in 2010. FlexiSAP is an edtech solution that currently helps over 500 schools to automate. Those numbers would have gone up. They help schools to automate their processes. Faiz supports and creates opportunities for out-of-school children. That's the NGO arm, and they improve the quality of education using technology. And that's under the NGO, which is FlexiSAP Foundation. He's a software engineer, and as FlexiSAP's CEO, he's responsible for driving the company's vision and overseeing product development and business strategy. So he built his startup, his business from ground up. So his, you know, effort has, you know, the knowledge to deliver this, you know, to deliver on this topic today. Also with us is Abubakar Abdullahi, CEO of Front Office NG. And his work is driven by a passion for building indigenous companies that provide meaningful jobs for the growing youth demography, and also developing local technologies. He's also a mentor who mentors in different programs. And most recently, he has spent time sharing knowledge and with startup founders in ABAN, you know, African Business Angel Network, and then VC4A, Venture Capital for Africa, and of course, Founder Institute. Also from day one, he has been with us, you know, and this is one of his favorite topics, which he has a wide experience in. He's a certified project manager with over 15 years of experience. He has sat on the board of Nigerian chapter of Project Management Institute for 2.5 years, and many, many more. At 2020 PMI conference, he spoke on agility as a critical part to building resilient organizations in the African project economy. So agility, you keep hearing us through that word around agile. So we're going to hear from these 3 top mentors, and we're looking forward to, you know, your contribution this evening. So without much ado, we're going to move on to the working groups, the working groups reports. Yes. So the first to go is Titans. So Titans.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Charles Victor.
Okay.
Am I on to everyone?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Charles Victor is my name, the humble president of Titans. Although we did not have our official meeting this time around, and one of our members actually gave me a query for not calling for the meeting. I actually apologize. However, we were able to discuss the assignments of most of our members. They brought it up and we were able to offer suggestions and things like that. On a personal note, I was able to meet up with one of our members during the week, and our discussions at least were worthwhile. Also, I also want to thank the Institute because some other members of the Founders Institute, not from our own team, reached out to me and we were able to discuss more on our projects together and had more insight. However, on a personal note, I would say that it's just after my meeting with one of the mentors during the office hours, I had to change my idea altogether. So that was why I did not have much time again with my members for the meeting that we were supposed to have. At that time, I was actually going for my interview section. So I have not apologized to them personally yet, but I'm using this medium to apologize. On a summary, we are trying our best to make our best to work collectively using our slogan, teamwork makes our dream work. Our slogan in Titans is teamwork makes our dream work. So we are hopeful that with teamwork, our dreams will certainly work. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you for that feedback. And Titans was the group that had a meetup in Lagos, right? I think two of you met, you and Musa. That was Titans group. Yes. Okay. That was quite inspiring. So keep it up and network. I see Akimbo with Founder Institute logo behind. I think you should be branding your company. So I can note. So next time, upload a background of your company logo. Just an advice. Yes. Okay. So next working group, we'll just do 1 minute.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
So my name is Mier Best. I am the president of the Legend Group. Our summary for last week and early this week would be, last week we met as usual. Our meeting days are Fridays and Tuesdays. And so far we meet every Fridays and Tuesdays, and that has been the case last week. We also met last night, being Tuesday. I would say the progress we've made is, at this stage, everyone in our group, hopefully, has developed, based on their own capacity and our own inputs, their missions and their vision. So yesterday we started the customer development sprint. We had an overview and an outline of what to expect in today's meeting. And hopefully by Friday, we should review the work that has been done. So far, I think everybody has been cooperative, and the group has been learning quite a lot. But I just have to confess on a personal note that it's getting more tougher, maybe I would say. You just feel that, like you mentioned earlier, we need to now increase the number of hours we put personally to develop our business, because I think we're gradually coming into the heat of the thing. But so far, so good, I would say. Everybody from the group is upbeat, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the weeks ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Doug, I think, are you done with your assignment, by the way?
So I had to ask for an extension, honestly. I have a couple of interviews that are still uncompleted, and that's why.
I see you guys are wasting your extensions at the early stage. I would advise you to do that.
Wow.
Anyway,
wow.
Okay. So it's getting hotter and hotter. Okay, so the next working group, does somebody want to go up, or do I have to pick someone to do that? Who's ready? Okay, alphas. Let me do the picking. Alphas, are you guys ready? Alphas, Shego Adepoju, are you there? Who else is there from Alphas?
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
This is Onyeka. Shego called me while we were having the meeting, and
Okay.
he said his phone fell and crashed, and so he's not able to. Yes, he's not able to. He's still trying to log in. However, for Alpha's group,
he was also not around last week, was he?
I'm not sure because I wasn't around last week.
Okay, who from your group is in right now on this call?
Let me see.
I'm around though.
Who is that? Who is that again?
That's Shagun.
Adepoju.
Shego is yeah. Yes.
Okay, Shego, you're there. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry, my phone just crashed, so I just switched to my laptop. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so go on.
Okay, so Shego, I'm handing over to you.
Well, the report from the group.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, we had a meeting on Monday. That's right, Onyeka. We had it on Monday.
This is not where you come to do the meeting. This is where you report the meeting.
Okay, yeah, we had a meeting on Monday, and it was nice because some of our people were not showing up before, but it was an opportunity to show up, and we asked ourselves on previous assignments and how we were doing. Everybody talked about what the challenges had been, and then we talked about the current one. The current one actually involves we talking about what we're doing, and every other person else in the group now sort of provide constructive criticism. So we were able to do this for each and every person that was present in the meeting. It was only Lola Awoshika that couldn't come. She's not Nigeria based, but I called her. So prior to the meeting, she promised she would be able to join, but somehow along the line, she was not able to join. So I hope the next meeting she will also be around so that we can have a full house. But it was a time to get together. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so next group, let's move on to Dreamers.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I am Musa Jubril, the president of the Dreamers. Basically, last week, moving to this week, Sunday, we had to change our timing and meeting schedule because of some of my peers being unable to meet up recently. So we discussed about our vision and mission, and everybody had to paste their vision and mission for a review on our own group personally. So we also spoke about how to carry each other along. As you can see, I'm one of my peers from my group, Mr. Bernard Sully. Yes, we all have to fly together. So that's it. We're just working on how do we make it work. So it's becoming tedious. But yeah, so far so good. We're good to go, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you mentioned earlier to me that you wanted the whole team in one location. What happened to that?
Just mentioned that one of my colleague will be coming together with
Okay.
me. So I wanted to
Okay.
ask if it's something we can always, like sections like this, my
MD.
colleague can come. We have them together
Okay.
on one screen. Yeah.
They have the screen. Can they pair? Can they join if they want to?
I don't understand.
Sometimes his colleague will come over to their office and then they have a session together, like they're doing now.
To their own offices?
Yeah, so like they have one place and one screen. Anyway, you talk about that with the MD much later on after that, but for now you can go on since you're there. Okay, so champions. Champions.
All right, good evening all.
Yeah.
My name is Ojimadu Paul Chibueze. I'm the president of Champions Group. We actually had, okay, I would apologize for last week. I did a very quick summary, so it wasn't actually a quick report. It wasn't comprehensive. So we literally started with 7 persons on board. I believe 2 persons has dropped. So in my last observation, Ekele was pulled out of our group, right? Sorry if I'm blundering the name, but was pulled out of our group. But I noticed he has been added to another working group. Then this week, Mokhtar, I actually reached out to him on a personal note. He said he can actually continue with the program. So we're actually we're 5 now in our group. So we had a meeting with regards to the reports for meeting up with our assignments for this for last week. So and it was successful. Everybody was present. So that's all for the Champions Group. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so next is icons. Icons.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Rebecca Amo. I'm the president of the Icon Group. So we have our meetings every Mondays and Wednesdays. Okay, Mondays we were unable to meet, but we met earlier today, catching up with our works and our deliverables. So we basically reach out to every member of the group and see how they're doing with running their businesses and overcoming business challenge while participating in the FI program. So we also evaluate the learnings from the last sessions, and people who have challenges, other members of the group try to help them navigate the assignments and also navigate their dashboard if they have any challenges. Then we look forward to the next meeting and seeing the things that we can learn. So regarding vision and mission, we actually share our business ideas again and got reviews from as many people who were available in the meeting, talking about how we have progressed from idea creation to MVP to testing and all of that. So basically those are some of the meetings that we've had together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Captains. Captains. Did I see James here? Right. Captains. Is James there? Is the group leader there? James is not there. Can somebody else from the group take the report? Can somebody else from the group take the report?
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you?
Hello. I'm a member
Hello,
of
we
the.
hear you.
I'm a
Okay,
member of
go
the Captains Group. Unfortunately, all the meetings we had during this week, I wasn't part of it. The one we had 2 days ago, I was on transit and I couldn't make it. Yesterday, I was trying to catch up with the group. I put up messages. There was no response. So I was thinking, okay, maybe after today's meeting, then we'll catch up with them. But it's unfortunate. It's like nobody is here. The meeting we had last week that I was part of, we discussed each other's problem, and a lot of them were finding it difficult to navigate the dashboard, which I helped them out through that. And also with regards to setting of the assignments, I was able to provide them with help regarding some of the problems on the assignment dashboard. But as per this week, unfortunately, I wasn't part of any of the meetings they had.
Is there anyone else from the captain's group in this call, on this call right now? Solomon, is there any other person from your group on this call right now?
I'm trying to view the participant list. Nobody.
I thought I saw Aminu on the call. It's not.
I can't see anybody that is.
Okay, you need to reach out. Tell your group leader to reach out to me immediately after this call, either today or tomorrow. We need to talk about this. This is very poor. This is very poor. Okay, masters. Masters, are you there? Ezekiel Adamu, masters, are you there? Okay, that's another group. Anybody from masters ready to take the report? Anybody from masters ready to take the report?
Good evening. My name is Norman. I'm from the Masters Group, and I attended the meeting which held on Thursday. And the meeting was not, it was a bit brief because not many members showed up. But we did drop a summary of the meeting for them in the group. And what we discussed was how to go about meeting up with deadlines and making sure we complete the deliverables before the deadline. And also we emphasized on the importance of attending the group meetings on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, which were the days set for our group. So that's what and all we discussed on Thursday.
Okay, so during that meeting, how many of your members showed up?
About five of the members, yeah.
Okay, 5 of the members showed up. How many are currently on the call tonight? I see you here. I don't see.
Seen 3 already.
Okay, Japhet is there. Who else?
Christian.
Is Christian there? Okay, he's there also. So we can say we have just 4 of you here now. Your group leader isn't here. And the Kelly, is the Kelly there? Okay. So I'll note that. Newman.
Yes.
Newman, can you inform your group head to? Can you inform your group head to put it?
Okay. Hello. To contact you after the meeting.
You should do that. Yeah, Christian, I see you. So Tell him to contact me during the meeting, after the meeting. Thank you. Yes, the last group report, corporate.
Good evening.
Good evening.
God's will of Falagba. Yeah, God's will of Falagba. We met, but we had more of a physical meeting because of the deliverables, the assignments. We felt that discussions were more practical. Although we had some issues with our members, I don't know. I'm still waiting for their response. We are 6 in number. One sent a message that she might not be able to continue, that he will get back to FI. Then another I called for the meeting. He said his work schedule will not allow him to join such meetings. I'm still trying to have called the other one. So it was only 3 of us that interacted. We discussed more of our deliverables, reports. We're supposed to have 2 meetings, but we don't have a meeting because of the assignments. It wasn't too strong too. So the meeting was supposed to have on Tuesday, because our meetings are Tuesday and Saturday. So we had only 1 meeting whereby we now agreed to see how best to meet up with our deliverables. That was the meeting we had for my group. Or just 3 of us.
Okay, who are those 3 who attended the meeting?
Myself, Dr. Zaidi Godwin, and Engineer Kingsley Inanume.
Okay, thank you very much. And currently there are just about 3 of you also on this call, right? I think it's those same 3 people that are on this call right now. Okay, thank you, group presidents. Thank you for the group report. The sessions will help you guys to come together more and then be able to talk and discuss more and support each other. So we'll move on to the hot seats. And sadly, I'm also seeing that some people have, penciled down for presentation out here. So Catherine, please, you help me replace such people from the same group with some other people for the hot seat. So this is what we'll do. We'll be having, how many? We'll be having 10 presentations, and mentors, we'll split that out, 3 for each mentor. So we'll take them in rounds. Mentors will provide feedbacks, 5 minutes there about feedback, and founders would have just 1 minute to pitch. Your pitch is, give us something similar to what you presented during your assignment, or whatever. And mentors, the written link has been provided. Kindly fill out, even when you're not the one giving us review for that particular person, you could still give us feedback on the score, the written card, and then you could type in whatever comments you have for such presentations. Thank you. So let's get straight down to business. So we'll be having, is El Nathan around? El Nathan, are you there? Do I see El Nathan there? Okay. He's not there. So we'll pick someone else from his group. Our attendance is very poor. Masters. No, I'm having it here. I have the list here. So we'll look at someone else who's available from that group. Newman, do you mind if I pick on you?
No, I don't.
You don't? Great. What's happening with your camera?
Okay, my camera. Okay, let me. Yes. I put it to get some battery because my phone is a bit. So
oh, okay. Back on. Katie, will you help us with the feedback for Newman? Thank you. So the pitch template will come up right shortly. Newman, you have 1 minute to And remember your name, what you're developing, what it's meant to, the problem is solving, and all of that. So if you're ready.
Okay, I am.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Noman. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Noman, and my company is Green Energy Nigeria Limited. Green Energy is a renewable energy startup focusing on a cleaner and sustainable energy future for Nigeria. Green Energy is developing a modular plant which uses sugarcane to produce ethanol. This is to help pharmaceutical industries and their likes to get better quality of ethanol for daily usage, and also at better prices, and also in ways that will positively impact the environment. About 350 million liters of ethanol is imported yearly into Nigeria, and we only produce about 6% of what we consume in terms of the liters of ethanol. So our startup aims to, for now, start a modular plant that will produce at least 1,000 liters of ethanol per day. And as we move forward, we plan to scale afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. You were just on the clock. Okay, Katie, feedback for him, please.
Sure. Actually, pretty well done for a first or second shot. I would rate him. Actually, I'm going to give you a 2 because I think you're definitely going in the right direction. Some items that would increase your rating for me would be to give us a little bit more insight into why the pharmaceutical sector specifically, that part could use a bit of visibility. It was great that you included some metrics to help quantify the problem in the local context. It was great that you named the market, something that's often missing early on in the pitch practice. What I would love to see you do is help us understand what is the specific problem in the pharmaceutical sector. Yes, you've addressed the problem nationally in terms of imports, but are you going to enable cost savings because of local production? I mean, what is special about yours, and why are local pharmaceutical sector entities going to want to use your solution instead of others, given that they're probably more concerned with their individual business interests as opposed to sort of wider, national imports and exports. So, you want to make sure that when you name the customer, we want to know what is the problem for the customer. You've named a problem more broadly, nationally, which is great, but in this pitch, we want to get the problem for the customer.
Okay.
I'll pause it there and turn it back.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. So we'll move on to the next founder. Let me pick from the Masters Group. Godwin, are you ready? Godwin?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, great. I will be getting feedback from Faiz. We're getting feedback from Faiz. Okay. Godwin?
Yeah.
Yes, you can start. Your time starts now.
All right. So my name is Godwin, and my company, Ogenis Limited, is developing a smart multi-channel metering system to help reduce or provide more availability to metering facilities and discongest wiring network in our society. And this is step up because as we speak, more than 60% of connected users of electricity in Nigeria are not metered, and these have resulted to so many problems within the distribution network or distribution system. So my company is providing a solution to ensure that even with a few number of meters in circulation around, we can still have more access to metering system, which means that few people or a number of people can make use of a single meter, yet all of them will still be having access to electricity independently. And this is what the system or my company intend to do in order to be able to ensure that both investors be able to recoup their investment, and then users will be happy with having always access to electricity in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, you know, I don't know what you used on me. You got 30 seconds beyond time. Why did I do that? Okay. Faiz, I don't know how you got that, Godwin. You got 30 seconds beyond. Faiz, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well done, Godwin. I think in terms of the problem, I know Nigeria does about metering, and there are many households that do not have meters. So I was trying to understand, how are you trying to solve the problem? Because I know there's issue in terms of funding for this meters, so some other kind of I will say bureaucracy the sector, multi-metering where
Oh, the quality is
same meter. So if we have
Faiz, I'm not getting, is it from me here or it's the same quality out there?
I think it's from Faiz because I can't hear him.
Faiz.
Breaking, Faiz.
It's Faiz your...
how many people is to be for?
Oh boy. Faiz, you're breaking. Your line is stuttering. Faiz. So I think Faiz's network is really not so good there. Faiz, if you can hear, the network is awful. Okay, Catherine, please can you send him a chat? I don't know. Abubakar, I don't know if you could help us. Okay, Faiz. Okay, I think it's even bumped him out. Oh, Abubakar, I don't know if you got some of the things the founder presented. I don't know if you could just help with some feedback for him.
Yes, so I caught a bit of the pitch. Unfortunately, because I wasn't reviewing, I didn't pay attention and I didn't get the information I was looking for about the state of the business and maybe the challenges that they're facing and things like that. I think it's an interesting solution that definitely has a space in Nigeria. But maybe if I get another opportunity at the pitch, then I can know how to advise. But I think I know it's definitely an interesting solution. I had the first introduction of it, and I hope I get to hear more about it going forward.
Okay. You can use your rating link also to push that. So let's move on to the next person. That's Paul Ogunedo. Paul Ogunedo. Paul, are you in? I think I see you in.
Yes, I'm here. I didn't know I was pitching. They sent names of those that were pitching. Okay, all right.
Okay, don't worry. We're having some challenges with those pitches, but you need to be ready at all time. So are you ready?
Yes, I'll just give it a go.
So, Abaka, you help us with feedbacks for in place. And your time starts now.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Ogunedo. I'm a founder at Africa Wealth Initiative. Africa Wealth Initiative is a social enterprise focused on improving smallholder farmers' productivity. And we do this by channeling their work through a very specific system that we have designed. And the system encompasses dealing with their energy needs, solving their market problems, and focusing on their quality control measures. For us to be able to achieve this, we'll be able to set up what we call a research development and innovation center, which is going to be located at each farmer's community. Over time, we've been able to generate enough customer base to be able to move the market. But currently, we're facing technology challenges.
So your time is up. Your time is up. Abaka, you want to give us feedback for him?
Okay, so interestingly, one of the other things I do is I work with ideas around agribusiness. And I like the idea of what you're trying to do, but unless you have a lot of money, which is what I wanted to hear next, setting up incubation centers that are product specific, market specific, actually is very, very capital intensive. My organization has a partnership with what is called the Africa Agribusiness Incubator Network, and they have a string of agribusiness incubators across Africa, focused mainly in Central Africa. They've made a lot of progress around banana and some of the other products. So I know it's a lot of money. I unfortunately didn't get to hear what the market looks like from your perspective and how you're trying to solve that. But from my point of view, if I'm going to just say anything right now, I'm going to say that trying to solve both energy needs and market access is a lot to consider at the same time. So probably drill down into one, develop a prototype, get to a particular stage where you can cover a sizable market, and then see if you can add the other responsibility. So you may decide with energy and then add market access, or start with market access and then add energy. But you're taking on a lot from what I've just heard. And unless you have deep pockets, you're going to really struggle. So good ideas, but I think you're taking on too much all at once.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. We'll move to the next founder quickly. We'll take Umar Adamu Ibrahim. Umar Adamu Ibrahim.
Yes, I'm here. It's Umar Adam.
Great. Umar Adam. I'm sorry. So we'll take feedback from Katie. Katie, we'll take feedback from Katie. Umar, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
So your time starts now.
Thank you so much. My name is Umar Adam Ibrahim. As Nigerians, we wake up and we see blackout, there is no light. And the next thing you hear in the news is that the grid has fallen down. Or you buy fuel today, the next day you go out to buy fuel, you see a very long queue. So my company, Insat Lab, is developing an AI platform that will help the power sector make data-driven decisions by having a real-time application that we integrate all available data and also support them in making a decision. And this has to do with predictive maintenance, energy forecasting, and then energy distribution for efficiency, affordability, and optimization of the whole situation. If there is a predictive maintenance beforehand, that should be able to alert the engineer in the grid station that, okay, this very particular grid need maintenance before this very particular amount of.
Thank you, Adam. I had to cut you off. You passed your 1 minute. So Katie, feedback for him.
Sure. Well, it sounds like a very interesting idea. I mean, there are a lot of the big players that are already doing this, you know, GE, Digital Energy, Siemens, all of these 10,000-pound gorillas. So it's important for you to explain what makes your solution different from theirs and better than theirs. Does yours integrate with theirs in some way? So maybe you haven't gotten to get into enough specificity about your solution so that we understand how it's distinct from what is already in the market, but predictive maintenance is already there. So I would love to see you differentiate yourself more effectively in the next pitch, because I'm guessing that there's something that I'm missing there. In terms of the idea itself, I suspect more data is needed. Either the more data is needed, or you're playing in a market that is already quite saturated and it's dominated by these big players. Help us understand why you're different. In terms of the quality of your pitch, I mean, I think you have a fantastic style. You have a great cadence and pace. I was able to understand you. I just think that some important information must be missing. So in terms of my rating, I'm giving you, and by the way, I just want to check in, chapter leaders, chapter directors, are we sharing our number or verbally or only via the system?
That's your question.
Okay, both ways.
Both ways. Okay, very good. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a 2 because it's an interesting space to play in. And if there's something special and unique that you're doing, that's really cool. I mean, you know, potentially you have some sort of an innovation that does something distinct from what the existing players do. And perhaps you would be a good target for acquisition and exit in the future, if that's something that you're interested in. Yeah, just otherwise, you know, I need to understand why your solution is not obsolete in this market, because it's already kind of dominated.
Thank you, Katie. Love that. Thank you so much. So we'll move to the next founder. That's Stella Omabe. Stella, I suppose you're the one with Stella Diamond. I don't know what Diamond is. I hope that's the name of your company, but I would love to see Stella Omabe. If the Diamond is the name of the company, then you could just let's see the Stella Omabe. Thank you. So you rename yourself. So are you ready, Stella? Stella. Is Stella ready? I see you here. Has Stella fallen asleep on me? Okay.
I'm here, please. Can you hear me?
Stella.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, are you ready?
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be getting feedback from Faiz. I'm getting, hold on a bit. Okay, Faiz, we'll be getting feedback from Faiz. I hope your audio is okay now. Stella, are you ready?
Can I go on now? Yes.
Yes, you can start now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stella Diamond Nenna, the founder of Senam Carbon Nigeria Limited. My organization is currently developing alternative energy called cooking fuel to help women in local communities elevate their 100% dependency on dirty fuels, such as firewood, which is harmful to their health, and the LPG, which emits greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, contributing to climate crisis. Actually, I have a team of 5 members, and our unique value is to focus on providing available, affordable, and clean cooking biogas for local women, and the source of raw materials are organic waste that they generate within their household and farm waste, which include human and animal waste, especially cow dung. Thank you.
Okay, right on the clock. Faiz, yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, the audio is great.
Okay. Thank you. I think you have an interesting problem and also a big one, especially here in developing countries. You know, cooking gas is a problem, and ensuring that we save the society from global warming is great. So, but what I was not able to get from you is how are you really going to achieve this? You know, I remember since my university days, this has been projects people have tried to take on and so on. You know, but till today, it's still quite not. I haven't really seen a very, very successful one, which means that there's definitely, a challenge somewhere, whether it's in terms of the sustainability, the technology and so on. So I didn't quite get how you are trying to, solve that problem differently, and also make it sustainable, and scalable at the same time. But like I said, it's an interesting problem, that needs to be solved. I know there are initiatives, that are happening now, and another area that has potential as a business model is also earning, carbon credits. So you might not be able to maybe get them pay you, so as a profitable business, but the carbon credit you can earn by saving the environment can be, one of the business models. So I think it's something you should look at. And like I mentioned, we should really try to understand why is it difficult for, many businesses that try to provide clean cooking biogas hasn't been able to do it, sustainably and in a large scale. So I think I give it too. There's potential, but there's a lot more work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Faiz. Okay. I would advise all founders that, as the pitch goes on, you learn from the comments from the mentors and see how you review yours also. So we'll move to the next founder, and Solomon Enojo. Solomon Enojo. I will be getting feedback from Abubakar. Solomon. Solomon. I see Solomon here. Solomon Enojo.
I'm here.
Okay, so are you ready to present?
Yes, I'm ready.
We'll be getting feedback from Abubakar. Your time starts now.
My company is Soulman's Engineering. It's a clean tech company. We specialize in using solar products to provide electricity for individuals and businesses in off-grid communities where there are no electricity. This market is worth over $600 million per annum. And currently we are serving 2 communities of over 600 subscribers. What gives us an advantage? We leverage on providing cheap electricity to those community dwellers, those inhabitants there, because currently in most of the communities that we go to, their energy expenditure is much, much higher than the tariff of electricity that we provide to them. So we help them to mitigate, to save cost of energy. And then
Thank you, Solomon. Don't worry, I've cut you off. Okay, let's get feedback from Abubakar.
Okay, very interesting pitch, Solomon. I like the idea. I like what you're doing. I like the fact that you have some traction, and that means at least you're already validating the need for your solution. And I think that then gives you some idea about what the real challenges are for the company going forward and what the channels are for making progress right now and in the future. What's surprising is the fact that you're saying that you're helping them cut costs of energy at the moment. That would mean that at least you've covered the initial setup costs of solar. I know that's the biggest drawback with solar. So if I were going to continue the conversation with you, I would like to know how your solution is deployed. Are you deploying as maybe a central solar and then distributing to the communities off grid? I see you nodding, so that makes sense, and that would be how definitely to go. It's an interesting solution, and I enjoyed your pitch. And it's one that I would want to learn more about going forward. I have a lot of questions, but this is not the time or the place. So well done, Solomon.
Okay. Thank you, Abubakar. Mentors, don't forget to do the written link at the back end. Thank you. So we'll move quickly to the next person, Musa Audu. Musa Audu.
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me, Mr. Shekun. Good evening.
Okay, we hear you. We'll be getting feedback from Katie.
Can I start?
Yes, your time starts now.
Good evening. My name is Musa Audu. I'm the co-founder of Enix Autotech. We are developing a transportation system based on green energy. Our targets are university campuses and commuters. This market has over 100,000 likely users daily. We're trying to deploy e-scooters on our campuses to solve the problem of students having to walk from one distance to the other. There are some campuses are quite large. So what we're trying to do is to deploy these e-scooters for these students where a student gets to use their phone by, activating this system through the use of QR code. This will help in solving the targets problem and reduce the current, amount they spend currently on transportations within campuses, which are quite large. We'll also be
I've cut you off already. Thank you. We'll get feedback from Katie.
Right. Well, it sounds like a really cool and interesting solution. So I think there might be an opportunity there. I guess the key is this really a problem from the student's perspective and the institution's perspective? And is it a big enough problem that they would want to put money down for it? I'm curious about how they're solving the problem right now. Are they just walking right now? And if so, what if anything are the drawbacks of that walking? So sounds very interesting. I think what will be important for you to do is, really get out there and do your customer development and customer understanding so that you understand, is this a strong enough pain point that it makes sense for you to build a business around this, given how the problem is currently being solved. And also it'd be interesting for you to look at who is really your customer. You know, are you expecting that students would be, you know, paying for this service, or would it be actually institutions, you know, who want to have this as a value add for enrolling at their particular institution? So I think you know, what will strengthen your pitch for me is once you do that customer development, once you can come back and say in a pitch, we've spoken to, you know, 500 universities across Nigeria, and 91% of them say that, you know, students being able to get from A to Z is a major challenge. We've spoken to 5,000 students, and this is what they've, you know, said. At that point, I would feel, and actually I'm using big numbers there, you know, even if you had a much smaller sample of students, but the bottom line is you need real data from the market for me to feel confident that this is a problem that, you know, is going to have traction in your particular market. In terms of how you pitched, obviously some practice there in getting to the end of the pitch within the 1 minute, you know, and this 1 minute is very important. As Ajuma said, you know, I've worked with founders who have made introductions, and the investor will say, well, look, you know what, I don't want to see your pitch just yet. Just explain to me what your solution is, and I'll see if I'm interested. And so exactly what you're doing today, you need to be able to quickly and succinctly get to the key points. And what you did was you did describe the problem. I just want to see you quantify that with metrics in the next pitch. And I'd love to see you use actual customer data to do that quantification. And where you're going to get that customer data, you know, from actually reaching out to your target customers. But yeah, I'm excited to see how the solution evolves. Well done overall in your pitch. You were clear. You just need to make sure you can get in the hard-hitting details within the 1 minute, and you need to practice in my comments there.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks a lot. So moving on, Rebecca Amo. Rebecca Amo, and we'll get feedback from Faiz. Rebecca Amo, and we'll get feedback from Faiz. Rebecca, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, your time
Good
starts
evening,
now.
everyone. My name is Rebecca Amo, co-founder Africa Wealth Initiative. Africa Wealth Initiative is a social enterprise promoting sustainable agriculture and energy solutions for Africa's smallholder farmers. Our ultimate goal is to enhance productivity, reduce post-harvest losses, while facilitating access to market through our agritech platform. Our team brings experiences from agriculture, food processing, IT, energy, and investment. Since 2020, we have empowered over 400 smallholder farmers across 4 communities in southern Nigeria. We utilize waste, sunlight, water, and algae to develop healthy soil and generate clean energy to irrigate farm and power near farm processing center. It's been proven that increasing smallholder farmers' productivity is the key to reducing hunger and poverty in Africa. And creating near farm processing center will enable us to save $600 billion of food annually in Africa.
Thank you, Rebecca. Time was gone. So we'll get feedback from Faiz.
Hello, Rebecca. Were you reading the pitch? I guess you are reading. So it's important to to practice so that you don't have to read and be able to to communicate and pass the information. So the idea is also a potential one, and what I was trying to understand is what is your area of focus. It sounds like you're doing a lot around. Is it agri? Are you involved in the farming? Is it agri extension services you are providing? Are you providing the technology, or what specifically, how are you doing that? But I think you were able to also mention that you have traction, since 2020, which it means that you are on the field, which is very important. And shows that yes, you are very committed, and it means you have learned a lot, and there's there's already traction and potential. So like I mentioned, with the experience you have so far, what specifically are you trying to focus on? Where have you identified where the opportunity really is, and you want to capitalize on that, and optimize that so that you can have a highly scalable and profitable business. So all in all, I think just practice more, be able to identify the specifics and where you have strength. I think you have potential in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Faiz.
Yeah.
Founders, take note. You own the idea. You shouldn't be overly dependent on what you're reading, to make it so obvious. So we'll go on to Onyeka Ebechidi. I'll be getting feedback from Abubakar. Emeka Ebechidi. Onyeka Ebechidi, sorry. Onyeka.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, your time. Okay.
Just a second, please. Okay, I'm ready.
Your time starts now.
Good evening. My name is Onyeka. My company is Neru Swift Trade Limited, and we are developing a mobile app that is called Join My Ride. Our basic need and desire is to help people who live within the same vicinity find an easy, convenient, and comfortable, cost-effective means of moving from their homes to their offices and back home. It's more like a ride share service. We want to ensure that we can also reduce the amount of carbon emitted from the number of single manned vehicles that ply the highway on a daily basis. Thank you. Oh, sorry, just to add.
That's funny. Okay.
So that skipped my mind. So just to add, currently we have over 144 million users who do road transport in Nigeria. Our target is to reach in our initial startup 100,000.
So your time is up. Thank you. Make sure you package yourself. Abubakar, kindly give us feedback for him.
Okay. Hello. Nice to meet you, Onyeka. And
we'll take that one.
So you're doing it's a sharing economy solution, right?
Yes.
And you're saying that part of what you want to achieve is reduced emissions so that maybe people use the same vehicles as opposed to single user vehicles right now. All right. Okay. It sounds interesting. It's a difficult thing to achieve, especially when you're doing ride hailing. People have tried it with ride hailing and sharing at the same time. Because we are people who lack a culture of timeliness to start with, one of the problems you're going to have is how to schedule the pickups so that everybody arrives and gets on the same thing at the same time and then gets to the destination at the same time. But it's an interesting solution. I don't know how or where you are right now with the idea. It just sounds like an idea at the moment. But it just seems like I don't want to bust your bubbles right now, but it just sounds like you have a lot of work to do if the ultimate goal is actually to reduce emissions as a result of your solution. Your solution may come up, but I don't know how solving that problem will actually materialize. I like your pitch, except the fact that you were so in a rush to get off the pitch that you had all the time to use, but you didn't use it. And that's why I'm going to give you probably a 1, because you have a lot to say and you decided just not to use it at all. And so I think you should be penalized for that. But well done, and keep trying and keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we'll move to the last founder for today, for the set, Christian Efone. Christian Efone. Replace with Christian. Okay. Just hold on a minute. Just hold on a minute. Let me get in. Okay, great. Rashid, sorry. Christian, are you ready?
Huh?
Christian, are you ready?
The driver is using my call.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, Christian, are you ready?
This is
Rashid. Rashid, by the way, are you done with your deliverables? Rashid, are you done with your deliverables?
Not yet, sir. So I did.
Okay, so you should understand why I replaced you then.
Okay.
Great. So, Christian, are you ready? Is Christian ready? Okay, let me pick someone else from that team, maybe. Okay, the Masters Group. Masters Group. We've had one presenter from that group, have we? Is it Kelly Austin around? Catherine, please let me look through and see who is. Ezekiel Adamu, is he in? Ezekiel.
Yes, sir.
Ezekiel, before you present,
what's happening with
your, you were late last week, you're late this week again.
Oh, okay. Oh, so sorry.
Anyway,
Actually, I'm managing.
Anyway, you're supposed to call me after this session is over. Numan will give you the message. Okay, so are you ready to present now?
Yes, sir.
And we'll be getting feedback from Ido, one of our mentors from Lagos. Ido, you'll be giving us feedback for Ezekiel. Your time starts now, Ezekiel.
Good evening, everyone. My company, Jelvil Limited, is developing a technology called AFAS, Automated Fire Arrestor System, to help tanker, truck, petroleum oil tanker marketers solve the problem of post-crash fire. Now, with our own automated fire arrestor system, which is an AI technology that triggers automatically and arrest fire. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ido.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you, Sheikh. Apologies for joining a bit late. Shegun, how polite do I have to be?
How
polite do I have to be?
Don't hold anything back. I know you, so just please give it. Okay. Say it all.
Hi, Ezekiel.
Hi, sir.
I
I'll give you some credit for effort. However, this was a very, very poor pitch. It was a very, very poor use of a 1 minute that was given to you by the faculty at Abuja, from the Institute of Abuja. The reason why I say so is you can think of the last 1 minute as an unplanned, unforeseen opportunity to pitch to an investor. Maybe just yesterday, I met an investor or I was introduced to a community of investors, and there's 2 or 3 or 5 of them that are interested in exactly what you just described. And there are maybe 20-something people on this call you don't really know. So the concept of a 1 minute pitch is to achieve just one thing. Imagine that you are on vacation in Dubai or anywhere, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Calabar, New York, Chicago, anywhere, London, right? And you open an elevator and you press a button, the elevator opens, and there you see Dangote or Femi Otedola or anybody else that is a potential investor in your idea. The concept of a 1 minute pitch is that you need to be able to deliver enough appetite-whetting information in 1 minute that person will not be able to let you go. Or at the very least, they will say, wow, that was really, really interesting. This is my card. This is my number. Let's talk on Tuesday or let's talk on Wednesday, right? That is the purpose of a 1 minute pitch. Obviously, are you going to be able to tell us all the details about your business in 1 minute? Obviously not. But you need to be able to arrest someone's attention, okay? There are some critical elements in, so because automatically you are thinking that I only have 1 minute, this may come, it may take a while for it to sink into you, maybe because this information may be coming to you for the first time. But the more you ruminate on it and the more you practice this advice I'm about to give you, the more you see the wisdom in it. The 1 minute pitch forces you to prioritize the information elements that you have to deliver. There are 3 key elements of every pitch. There's a problem statement. There's a solution of that hopefully addresses that problem, right? And then there is a market potential, because you are not building an NGO and you are not building a charity, right? The problem statement. I needed to re-engineer or backward engineer, I needed to reverse engineer the problem out of the couple of sentences that you said. And it sounded like you are solving a highly disastrous, highly painful, highly frustrating problem that hopefully tanker drivers and the owners of those fleets will have. Guess what? I do not doubt that any of the owners of those tankers or the fleets of tankers will pay you money for this solution today. But the way you described it, I didn't feel any connection to it. You didn't hook me in. There are a couple of techniques, and I'm trying to be really, really, I'm trying to be really, really high level, right? But there are a couple of techniques that help you hook people's attention, okay? So imagine you have started this speech by saying, Alhaji Adamu, and I'm sorry if there's anybody, whose name is Adamu here. Alhaji Adamu is a 55-year-old tanker driver that runs one of the Dangote thousands of fleets of trucks from Apapa Port in Lagos to right? Last week, his truck got burnt, and because there was no emergency, right? You've already hooked me with that introduction that is a graphic display of somebody in distress. If I were busy or distracted or not really interested in what you were saying, that introduction that's very graphic hooks me in and makes me say, uh-oh, say that again, please. And then hopefully you can follow that up with a solution description that is reasonable for the problem you described. And then hopefully you can give me an idea a market that is so attractive that if I am an investor, I can't say no to you. I know it may come like a ton of bricks, it may come like a lot of information to dump on you at one time, you know, and it's also the first time we're meeting, but I really tried to, you know, distill it into the basics, right? I think it was a poor pitch, but I know that you can do much better. Thank you very much.
Great. So join any of the mentors for office hours. We'll go immediately because we're running out of time. We'll go immediately to presentations by mentors. They'll probably spend some time. Founders should please note down your questions for them as we wrap. Abubakar, you'll be going first. Abubakar, I know you had to rush off somewhere. So sorry about that. Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess I am. Can I share my screen?
Great. Catherine. We'll do Abubakar, then we'll do Faiz, then we'll do Katie.
Okay, so are you getting my screen now?
Yes, clear.
Okay, great. So I'm hoping this will be a very short pitch because as was already said, I actually need to run off in a bit. So customer development is essentially a 4-step process, depending on which part of the customer development process you are in. And essentially there are 4 parts to it. So the first part is you make assumptions, and your assumptions will probably be about the problem you're solving, the customer archetype you're addressing, and then the channels that you're going to use to address the problem and reach your customer archetypes. The second stage will involve testing these assumptions. So some of the pitches we've heard are assumptions, and some of them are already in the process of testing, and some have already tested and are in the process of validation. So during testing, you're either in discovery, if it's a problem that is very raw, and that's where you start with an idea and you discover what the customer thinks of it. This is where you find out if your assumptions are correct or not and things like that. And then of course you do validation is the alternative to that, where of course you've already gone to the market, you've taken some information, you've gone back and refreshed your assumptions, and you're going back to revalidate and do things like that. And it is based on these 2 things that you will then realize if you need to build an MVP or you're actually pursuing product market fit, which is an area where you have your value proposition that links to what the market needs is, that also leads to revenue generation and things like that. The third phase, of course, is where you iterate and pivot. And like I said, this is an ongoing process for most companies and for most businesses. Customer development is not a one-time thing. It's the ongoing work that an organization does to continue to grow. And of course, finally, you do the rinse and repeat. So this is just a quick rundown. I'm sure the FI literature will take you through most of what these things are. And so I'll just rush through it. I'm going to focus on a couple of things from what I've highlighted on the other page. So we're going to talk about customer archetypes because that's usually where we get it wrong. So what's a customer archetype? When you think of a customer archetype, it's the ideal person that's going to buy from you, the ideal person you're going to serve. And one of the key things that happens is there's usually a problem where people fail to differentiate between who a customer is and who a consumer is. The customer is the person who buys. The consumer is the person who uses. So for example, if you think about Indomie, the customer will probably be the parent. The consumer will probably be the child, right? In building your customer persona and your archetype, you need to understand who this archetype is and who influences the decision making. So sometimes the consumer may influence the buyer in more sense that instead of building your customer archetype around the buyer, you're building it around the consumer because of the influence they have on the buyer. And so let's think about, let's say, someone who wants to sell a solution. One of the solutions we heard is about energy savings, right? Wow, so my light just went off, but we're used to that, so we'll just go on. Right, so when you think about, for example, someone who wants to sell that, one of the things that you realize is if you're building it right, you have an idea of who the person is. So for example, when Solomon did his pitch, he spoke about people who are off-grid. That understanding of who the customer is comes from actually creating a customer persona. So where does the customer live? They're off-grid. They don't have access to electricity. You're probably thinking about how old they are, what kind of family size they have. Are they married? Are they single? And things like that. And if you want to drill down into it in more detail, you want to think about, you know, how much they make, not just in annual savings, in annual earnings, but also how much of that remains with them. So for example, someone who makes 100,000 naira and has 5 children has less of a discretionary budget than someone who earns 100,000 naira and lives alone, right? Except of course, if there are other lifestyle influences that you also need to look at. So that's where you now then start looking at the motivations for them, looking for your solution and things like that. And ideally, what we've come to realize is building a customer persona allows you to then narrow down the channels that you're able to go and meet them and find them to buy your product. So we see, for example, lots of people, you know, bring in flyers, say they want to sell luxury homes, and then they're handing out flyers at the market in Wuse too. Or for people in Lagos, you know, you go to Balogu market and you're handing out flyers for people to come and buy 100 million naira house. Now, the first thing that tells me is you haven't done the right customer archetyping, because if you do that, you probably know that someone who has enough money to buy 100 million naira house would not want you to meet them on the way to the market. They prefer to be met somewhere else. And so that defines your channel and things like that. So that's what customer persona and customer archetypes does for you in your business. And I'm just going to, like I said, skim through this. Now, the second thing that we need to understand in customer development that I'm focusing on is working with feedback. Because when you go to do customer development, you're speaking with people, you're asking them questions, you're trying to validate the things, whether they like what you're doing or not, and things like that. I think my video at this point will just be distracting, so I'm going to turn it off. So you're thinking about what they do, whether they will buy from you, whether they will not buy from you, and things like that. And in collecting customer feedback and working with it, most entrepreneurs also find another problem that I think we need to try to address. So one thing is there will be a pull. Someone is dragging you this way, another person is dragging you the other way. But there's also, of course, that other way. There's always a third opportunity that you can learn from if you listen to the people giving you feedback and if you do your customer development the right way. And so in working with feedback, you need to know that feedback can be good, feedback can be incomplete, and feedback can also be an introduction to a different aspect of the problem that you haven't looked at before. So go out to do customer development with an open mind, knowing that not all of the things that you assume are going to work out, but also knowing that if you do customer development right, there are people who will give you information that can help your business become stronger, that can help your product survive the difficulty of the market. Now, so when we talk about working with feedback, there are two challenges that people face. Usually when people give you feedback, you're thinking of, okay, should I iterate or should I pivot? Iterate is, should I change what my assumptions are, but still stick to solving the same problem? I've come out to say, I want to solve your energy needs. You've given me feedback and I've realized that, okay, I'm going to be solving your energy needs, but rather than solving it with biogas, I'm probably going to solve it with wind energy, right? But I'm solving the same problem. So you're iterating, you're changing a few things. Pivoting will be, I go to the market, I say, I want to solve your energy needs, and I realize what you need is actually food to eat. So I then decide I'm going to open a restaurant, right? So that's a total pivot. You've left what you were thinking of doing and you're doing something else because the market has channeled your thinking in a different way. So that's the two things that will happen there. Now, the things to avoid that we've highlighted here are, say that, first of all, there is the tendency for you to lose interest if the feedback is not right. Two, there's the tendency to do narrow sampling, because you, for example, I want to start a business. I go to people on my street and people that I'm related to, and I ask them, oh, I'm starting a business, will you buy from me? Of course, the people will tell you they'll buy from you, right? Because yeah, there are people who don't want to offend you. There are people who know you and things like that. And that's how people, take that sampling, start a business, and then nobody buys a single item. All the people who said, oh, we'll buy, nobody's buying. So in doing your sampling about your customer development, be sure to do a wide enough sampling of the likely people who are going to buy from you. And that's why, again, understanding your customer archetype, their profile, and their preferred channels will help you avoid some part of narrow sampling. The second thing you need to avoid is also what we call analysis paralysis, right? So you're doing your analysis, people are giving you feedback, and you're waiting until everything is perfect before you go to market. As entrepreneurs in the agile space, what we want to do is to fail fast. If I'm going to fail, I want to fail after I've spent as little amount of money as possible and I've wasted as little amount of time as possible. So you're taking feedback and you are actually executing, because execution is king in this space, especially if you want to succeed in the space that we're in and continue to build. So you want to avoid that analysis paralysis that keeps you just, thinking, changing, but you're not executing. And the time you're wasting will be the time that someone else swoops in, who has not done the amount of research that you've probably done, but who's willing to test the market, and then they can get in and actually succeed. I'm going to leave it here for now. I wish I had time to stay and take questions, but I'll try to come back on in the next 25 minutes if you're still on board. If you're not, then I wish everybody all the best. And thank you for having me. I hope that I have at least been able to share some knowledge with the rest of you. And I wish you all the best on your Founder Institute journey. So thank you.
Thanks, Abubakar. You'll be there. I'm sure you'll be back and you'll meet us here, please. So you could take questions. I'm certain of that.
All right.
So
thank you.
Okay, and also during office hours. So in case he doesn't make it back, meeting us here, guys, please connect with him on office hours. So Faiz, we'll take the next slot from Faiz. Probably.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you.
Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Hello once again. In the next couple of minutes, I would like to share my understanding and experience on customer development. So this is from, I'll say, the father of customer development, Steve Blank, who was actually the teacher of Eric Ries, who wrote the book on Lean Startup and popularized the Lean movement, which is everywhere today. And he said that All new companies and new products begin with an almost mythological vision, a hope of what could be, with a goal few others can see. It is this bright and burning vision that differentiates the entrepreneur from big company CEOs and startups from existing businesses. So as startups, you are all, I'll say congratulations, because you are in a very exciting space, and journey. And you need to also, as we move on, you should be able to understand how really you are different from, SMEs or lifestyle businesses. Startups have their own unique characteristics and important things we need to focus on. And customer development, is one of them. I've met, very successful top engineers in big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and so on. But honestly, after so many years, they want to come back to this same track that you are embarking on. So I encourage you to really pay attention, commit to it. So what do you think makes some startups succeed and leaves others selling off their furniture? So I would say this is more like a rhetorical question. Obviously, for me, is the topic we are discussing today is all about customer development, right? And if you understand this concept, it simply tries to say that if you do the right thing at the right time, then there's no way that you won't succeed. And there's no way that you end up burning, all your money or wasting your time, doing the wrong thing. It helps you to quickly, identify, what is working, and how do you continue to focus on that. So in essence, if there's one takeaway, from this session today is that, you need to understand what startups actually do is searching. So you are on a journey of searching, you are searching for, what works, what is it that the customers really want, how do you solve their problem, are there what business model, is going to work for you and so on. And all this is really about searching. You have to test these things, validate them, and make sure they work before you go into all this big spending in setting up big offices or hiring and so on. So that's what customer development is all about. And before customer development became popular, what most people are used to is the product development model, which hasn't been working very well, especially with the rate at which technology is advancing today. So you can't spend so many years in requirements, maybe analysis, design and development, and just launch and go into the market. It doesn't really work that way. And that's what the product development is all about. You think about the idea, you develop, you test, and then you launch in a very big way, with very fancy fanfare, publicity, and so on. So it's actually this from experienced people, actually. Like I mentioned, Steve Blank, who that's what he has been into for decades, teaching many successful startups at Stanford and so on. So they are telling you that if you focus on this product development model, it's actually a path to disaster. So you have to desist from it. You have to, imbibe customer development from early on. You need to understand what it is all about, and how do you incorporate it in your own model and operation. So there are so many drawbacks of the product development model, and that's why customer development is very important, right? So in product development, you don't really ask the customers. You just have this idea, you maybe have your own, you brainstorm at the office, you and your co-founder, in your garage, and you just think, wow, this is a very cool idea and people must love it, so you haven't asked a lot of questions. You don't know, are there really customers, and what you're trying to do, is this the problem, they have, and so on. So you have to, the product development model does not answer this question. Where are really the customers, And then there's focus on this first customer ship date. So this, you can think of this like I mentioned, very high fanfare launch, right? You may spend 3 years, 2 years, or even more building, and you've invited, TechCrunch, you've invited some media houses and so on. You are ready to launch, and then you'll be in for a shock and surprise. You've launched, you've fixed that specific shipping date, and so on, but then no one is interested to buy. Coincidentally, I was watching a video earlier today from the co-founder of Y Combinator, right? And he asked this question, can any of you remember, maybe even from the books you read or history about companies like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, can you really remember when did they launch? And the answer is no. If you ask even Mark Zuckerberg, when was your launch date? It will be very difficult for him to answer, because their focus was not on building one mega product and just launch. They were just trying to solve a problem, and they put it out there for people to try, and they kept learning from it. They kept searching, and that's what customer development is all about. So like I said, it's about learning and searching, not emphasis on execution, right? So you need to ask a lot of questions and learn so many things. What are the problems? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay, I saw someone sent a message that you can't hear. I think it's from your network then. Yeah, so you need to focus on learning and not just execution, hiring, VP of sales, and so on. Then there's also the lack of meaningful sales, marketing, and business development milestones. And so you need to, instead of just building and so on, you need to have some meaningful milestones in terms of sales, marketing, and business development. So these are some of the questions you should be asking. And how well do we understand what problems customers have? So if you are just building, you are not talking to customers, you don't know where they are, you don't understand their problems, their lifestyle, right? Then it's difficult to really be on track. You can be moving a total opposite direction, without realizing very, very early, right? How much would they pay to solve these problems? Do our product features actually solve, their problems? Do we understand their business? And I really find this, for me, very, very powerful and useful, because when I put myself in the customer's shoes, right, many people approach me, they want to pitch or sell something to me. and it might really not be my problem, at that moment. It might not be my priority. But imagine if you try to understand, my business. I have tons of problems I want to solve. So imagine if you try to understand, what is it that I do daily, what are my challenges, and so on, and focus on that. Immediately we can easily connect, and make a lot of progress. So, and so many other important, questions you need to understand about your customers. So, because product development, focuses on, or when we are testing, we should start hiring and setting up the sales organization. By the time we are about to launch, we need to have maybe 20 salespeople to go and start selling and so on. So what customer development is emphasizing is this is not the right way or the best way to do these things, right? So you have to, you should also avoid using product development model to measure sales, right? What we typically do is, we have this roadmap. Maybe after 6 months, I finish version 1. I do some alpha beta test. Then after 3 months, I will have 50 customers. In the next 6 months, I will have 200, and so on. So you are just basically using product development, the features you want to keep adding, to assume that, that's where sales will also come, which is, like here they say using a clock to tell the temperature. So you're actually using something wrong to measure something important. So the same thing, using product development to measure marketing. Don't focus too much on what stage am I in my own development and what kind of marketing PRs and launch event and so on do I have to do, right? These things are important, but they only become relevant when you really identify your product market fit, right? And it's very obvious if you understand your unit economics very well. So by the time I invest this, I'm sure I'll get these results. Then also premature scaling. Most times before, like I've just mentioned, before we have a product market fit, we want to scale. We want to, probably we are lucky to get some investment. So we want to spend all the money, in scaling, which will not necessarily, bring the result. And of course, the death spiral. If you launch your product wrongly, in a big way and so on, then you become in a situation where it's very difficult to track back, right? And a good example Steve Blank gave is Webvan. There was this e-commerce company that had very big ambition. Before they even launched, they had probably almost 1,000 staff. They have like 50 warehouses, and so on. And they quickly even went into IPO. So everything about their sales, their numbers has to be public. So they are in this death spiral. They are not meeting up, and it's very difficult to track back. So that's why it's important to know when to really launch, at what stage should you invest and scale. So you need to also understand that not all startups are alike. And that's why, you remember we said it's searching, you are learning. If you just want to adopt a blueprint from a certain business that have done it before, it might not be applicable to your own situation, right? Things have changed. You might have different kind of customers, market, industry, and so on. So that's why it's really about this learning, you know. You have to talk to the customers early. You have to be on the field early, you know, and when you understand what the problem, you know, the problem the customers really have, you know, how much are they willing to spend in solving this problem and so on, then you realize that you are easily on track. You are making the wisest investment and getting the results that will make you really succeed in the long run. And then, of course, unrealistic expectations. You know, with the product development model, like we mentioned earlier, you just have these projections. Like you put up some projection Excel. You know, after 12 months, we'll hit these numbers. After 24 months, we'll grow at this level and so on. So you need to, if you don't understand your customers, you've not built your, you know, created your own, validated and created your customer base, then all these projections, they are just like a dream. So another key thing, you know, you need to understand is the technology life adoption curve. Because most times when you start newly, you might start having some very good responses from customers. And you think that, wow, I've got a product market fit and this is it. And you just, you know, try to scale. But the technology adoption life cycle shows that there are different stages, right? You have the technology enthusiasts, you have the visionaries. These are people that, you know, that quickly key into your vision and are ready to take risks. So they might even pay you checks, you know, waiting for you to finish building that product. But the real business is the mainstream market. That's where maybe 90% of the customers are. And you have the pragmatists and conservatives. They are kind of difficult to to convince. They have to wait and see what is happening. How are other, you know, the early visionaries, how are they using this? What kind of testimonials or references will they get from them? But you can also see, importantly, between the visionaries and pragmatists, there's this gap. So the curve is not like a smooth curve. There's this gap where you usually hit a roadblock, right? You might start, maybe when you start, you have 20, even up to 50 customers. And depending on your type of business, right? Maybe you need thousands or tens of thousands of customers, but you have a few of them or 100 and so, and you think, wow, I've got it. Then you hit this roadblock, the chasm. It's called the chasm. So this is where, you know, a lot of other activities have to happen before you are able to cross to the mainstream. So you can see that your customer development phase happens within, you know, this the technology enthusiasts and the visionaries. They are the ones that are ready to try your product, right? Even if it's not well built, it's not perfect and so on. So you need to focus on them, you know, try to understand the real problem, you know, keep iterating, improve, you know, experiment your business model, understand, you know, your unit economics and so on. So you keep doing that, you know, until this is you fully understand the market. Then you can attempt to penetrate the mainstream market. And there are also some very, you know, some challenges, because the way the visionaries or the technology enthusiasts will respond to you can be totally different from the mainstream market. So you need to understand that the tactics, the way you do marketing and so on, may eventually change. And you know, that's where you need experienced people to come in, you know, and help you do the normal traditional things. So quickly, instead of looking at it this way, where you have the product management, you do product development first of all, finish building before you start your sales and marketing. The ideal customer development is these things go, concurrently. As you are building your product, you are already on the field. You are talking to the customers, and you are, perfecting your product and your business model and so on. So there are actually four stages in the typical customer development model. You have the customer discovery. I think the previous speaker has touched on this, where you have this, your idea and you're searching, and then you need to validate. And you can see here, each stage is iterative. You have to keep, changing based on feedback you are getting and so on. And then you can pivot. Before you go to execution, you can see you are still within search. So it's easier to pivot if you get more, you understand more about the market, maybe the problem you initially thought is the real problem is not, and so on. So you keep doing this at the search phase, until you really figure it out before you move on to customer creation and company building. So in customer creation, this is where you can start investing in marketing. You have to create demand, build your pipeline, your leads, and so on. But you've already, it's like you've hit the nail on the head. You've got the, you've understood the problem and you have the solution that people are really excited about. Then you can focus on customer creation and company building. Of course, as you start growing, you need processes, you need people. That's where you can now invest in all the necessary hiring you need, put in all the processes required to make sure you provide very good user experience and quality service to your customers. So this more breaking down each stage. At the customer discovery, that's where you understand the problem, solution fit. You have your MVP, and your proposed funnels. Then at customer validation, you try to get product market fit. You understand your business model, and then you understand your sales and marketing roadmap. Here, what simply means is you should be able to build a repeatable process on how to sell. So when you achieve this, then you can, scale at the customer creation and continue to build your company. So this is just explanation of what I've just said, and I think this is also about the different startups. You can be in an existing market, or it's a new market entirely. For example, ChatGPT could be, you can say, a new market where it came and it didn't have to start having head-on competition, right, with the likes of Google and so on. So the community are the ones marketing ChatGPT and so on, or resegmented market with a focus on low cost, or with focus on a niche where you can have premium service. So because of time, we cannot go into details, but each of these, depending on what type, it might have its own different strategies. Oh, sorry. So like this, I think the last slide, it's important to understand that, product development and customer development go hand in hand, like I said, and you need to synchronize the two. So while the customer development group is engaged in customer-centric activities outside the building, the product development is focused on the product-centric activities taking place internally. Of course, this depends on the size of your team. If you are small, you have to wear multiple hats, doing both and so on. But the emphasis here is you have to go outside. You have to be outside the building. Don't stay, in your office and just keep building. You have to talk to the real customers. Get feedback. Try to give them something they can try and and give you feedback, and so on. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, if you understand this really important topic, I encourage you to go and research more, right? Learn more. There are tons of YouTube videos that talk about this, right? Because if you really understand it very well, it is a true and repeatable path to success. It eliminates or mitigates the most egregious risks and allows the company to grow into a large, successful enterprise. So if you want to succeed and grow into a large, successful enterprise, then pay attention to customer development. Thank you.
Thank you for that one. Questions are coming in. We'll take questions when the session comes. I'll move quickly. The last mentor for tonight, Katie.
All right. Thank you so much. And am I able to share my screen? I think, right. Okay, is my screen visible to everybody?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, I'm really glad that the chapter directors chose to do things in the order they did, because I think it's a perfect segue. I think the two mentors before me did an amazing job of giving you a strong framework and foundation, and also some of the nuts and bolts of how to do this customer development sprint. And I hope to give you even more specific, practical, hands-on guidance on how to do this. So, I think it's really important that, that Founder Institute has called it a sprint, because the nature of a sprint is you bursting forward, as quickly as you can, pumping your arms, pumping your legs, moving fast to get to a certain finish line, right? And in some ways, that's what you're going to be doing here. Ultimately, I think Faiz mentioned, and actually Abu Bakr also said it as well, this idea that you are, you're going to build, measure, learn. And you want to kick off this process of learning by going out and talking to your customers. So Faiz mentioned this, and I'm going to sort of add an additional Steve Blank quote that I really like. He said that a startup is not a small company. It's a temporary structure created with the purpose of search. Just to punctuate Faiz's point, you guys are searching for your startup's business model. And so it's really important that you have a target in mind as you do this sprint. Understand that ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to find, as Faiz said, a scalable, repeatable business model. So if you're not intentional about trying to find the scalable, repeatable business model, you're going to be scattered. So keep that in mind. I have this quote here from Zig Ziglar, which I think also sort of drives home the importance of that focus. If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. So make sure that you are very clear on what you're aiming at as you embark on your customer development sprint. You are trying to get sufficient understanding of your customers and the market so that you have a business model that's going to scale and take you to your vision for your company. So in this brief time we have together, what I'll be focusing on is how do you interview potential customers to validate that they have a problem, and in particular, whether they have the problem that you think you're solving for them, and if not, what is the actual problem. I also cover some of the other techniques to research customer problems besides interviews. We'll also talk about how you can identify a viable customer problem to build a business upon. So as the previous mentors have mentioned, just because a customer has a problem doesn't mean that you can build a business around it. So you need to ensure that the problem you choose to tackle for them is one that you can build a viable business around. So let's jump into it. So you've heard from the previous mentors that you need to get out of the building. If you're going to understand your customers, if you are going to discover your customers and your market, you can't do that sitting closed in a room and just, coming up with the business concept all in your head. You need to go out and talk to your target customers. So let's talk about how to do that specifically. As Abu Bakr mentioned earlier, you need to write down your assumptions. In my presentation, I've called these your hypotheses. These are your theories about who your customer persona is. As Abu Bakr mentioned, you're getting into the nuts and bolts of, demographics, lifestyle, interests, values, etc. And you're going to see in your deliverables that you are given some guidance on how to do that specifically. So be sure to follow the guidance there to write down your hypothesis about who your customer persona is. I encourage you to also write down the universe of stakeholders who surround that particular customer. I'll give you an example from my own business. My first business that I started was providing substitute teachers to international schools in Qatar. Now, obviously, when I think about my target persona, I am in a business to business space. And I know for many of you, based on your pitches, you are also looking to be business to business in some sense. And so I assumed that, okay, I'm going to be selling my solution to headmasters and headmistresses, heads of school, who want to address gaps in their teaching core, right? But there are other stakeholders here. There are the teachers themselves who would be replaced. There are the parents. There are the students. There are the financial administrators in the school. All of these are stakeholders surrounding the problem. There are human resources executives. It's very, very important that you map who are all of the stakeholders in this ecosystem who will be important to the buying decision. In my case, to offer you a crude example, I might have assumed, well, the person, paying for my solution is the head of school. They're the one who will make the decision. But here's the thing. I remember one parent saying to me, look, I hire a plumber to do my plumbing. I hire a painter to do my painting. I expect that, when you send a teacher to cover, they must be a qualified teacher. Now, this was very important because coming from an American context, so I'm American, living in Qatar, I'm a Zimbabwean American, and in America, in some school districts, a substitute teacher does not need to have a teaching qualification. So by talking to members of the ecosystem other than the person who's going to make the buying decision, I got to understand, okay, this person will be a negative stakeholder if I send a teacher into the school who is not qualified. Add on top, when I spoke to some students, I had students say, look, if a teacher walks into the classroom and she doesn't know or he doesn't know what he's doing, we're going to eat him or her for lunch. So I would never have gotten that type of stakeholder insight talking to the headmaster, because the headmaster or headmistress might not say that to me. but by talking to parents, talking to students, I get a much clearer picture of what my solution needed to look like, right? So I came to the conclusion that, of course, I need to send in teachers who are experienced. First of all, they have to have a teaching qualification, and not just that, they need to have a couple of years of experience so that they will be able to walk into a classroom with students who don't know them and command the front of the room. So for you as well, you know, with your energy solutions, you'll want to extend that. You want to extend that understanding to the ecosystem surrounding your energy solutions and technology solutions. Who are the universe of stakeholders involved? And these are also people who you need to interview, even if they are not going to be making the buying decision, because they will have influence over what the solution needs to look like, right? So let's go into now, so where do you find these people who you are supposed to interview in order to discover the market? So I recommend that you start with your own network. After you've created your persona, your buying personas, go into your own Rolodex. Think about your past jobs that you've had, you know, past friendships, current people in your social network. Think about family. You know, this is for sure a place to start, and make a list of people who are either in a decision-making role or are in the ecosystem, or who have some influence or connection to those who are. You also want to do an analysis of where do these people hang out, both in person and online. So you might consider, for example, are there some professional or trade associations? You know, so I remember one of the founders who pitched talked about pharmaceuticals purchasing their solution. Is there a Nigerian association of pharmaceutical companies, or a Nigerian association of pharmaceutical professionals? Somebody mentioned, you know, serving universities. Is there an association of Nigerian universities? Think about trade and professional associations. Think about conferences. Are there some conferences that your target stakeholders are engaged with? You know, so somebody wanting to provide solutions for the Nigerian grid, electrical grid. You know, are there particular events that those stakeholders are going to be going to? Are there forums online where they go to? Or are there physical markets? You know, so one of the founders who I've worked with previously, they had a solution that was going to digitize marketplace for particular products that are sold in person at markets in Nigeria. They went to those markets in person, physically, and they went and sat and spoke with people who were at those markets. They watched them to observe, you know, how do they behave? How do they make decisions? They got to talk to different stakeholders there. So you want to make a list of where are the places in person and online where your target customers and also other people in the ecosystem are hanging out, and you want to go there. You want to go there digitally, you want to go there physically. If there are Facebook groups, you go and join those Facebook groups. If there are trade associations, you go and join those trade associations. If there are physical marketplaces, you go and hang out in those physical marketplaces. So it could also be, you know, physical buildings. Maybe, for example, if you are providing a solution for women at home, I heard that earlier, maybe you're actually going to an apartment building or a complex where people are living. I mean, of course, you want to make sure you have the necessary permissions and permits if there are any rules like that. But maybe you just want to go physically to this residential space. And as people are coming in and out, you're having conversations. Now, the next way to find these folks is that you need to leverage any conversations you do have. So let's say, for example, you go through your contacts list in your phone and you realize, okay, I have my cousin who works for the Nigerian electrical grid agency, whatever that is. I'm going to contact them and ask them questions about, how are they currently solving, the problem of data-driven decision making. So you contact your cousin, you speak, or uncle, you speak to them, and at the end of that conversation, you need to ask, who else do you know who is like you, who would be willing to talk to me? So you ask the people who you interview for introductions, for contacts. You ask them if they're not willing to introduce you directly, could they give you a phone number or an email address? And can you mention their name? Because more often than not, if you have a familiar name, you're more likely to be able to get the interview. And this approach is actually called the snowball research methodology. So I'm encouraging you to snowball it. Let's say you manage to do 5 interviews tomorrow because you've taken all of this learning from all of the mentors today. At the end of each of those interviews, you need to be asking, do you know anybody like you who would be willing to answer these questions? Would you be willing to introduce me to them on WhatsApp? Can you share their WhatsApp details? Can I drop your name? So that's what I mean when I say snowball it. And I've already touched on this point, but I can just re-emphasize it here, which is make sure that you have written down the ecosystem, the universe of stakeholders who surround your core persona and really who surround the problem that you're trying to solve. So the next thing, once you've figured out where to find these people to interview for your customer development sprint, you need to figure out, okay, what am I going to talk to them about? And as Abu Bakr mentioned earlier, and I think Faiz also alluded to this, you want to make sure that you're actually going to get valid data from these interviews. Instead of just having people not want to hurt your feelings and tell you, oh, yeah, this is fantastic, I love it. You want to get real hard-hitting data and facts on, is your solution actually a viable solution? So there's a couple of resources I'll point you to. The first one is a wonderful book called The Mom Test. It's written by a technologist. The premise of the book is he helps you to figure out, how do you ask questions where even your mom, who loves you so much and would tell you that whatever it is you're doing, it's wonderful and it will succeed, even your mom would actually be able to give you valid, useful, accurate data. So you are structuring your interview questions in such a way that even your mom is going to give you the facts. So if you have access to Audible on Amazon, it takes about 4 hours to listen to the book. So you could do that while you're washing the dishes at home. I don't know, while you're taking a walk, your afternoon walk, whatever it is that you like to do. So I recommend highly that you get a copy of the Mom Test, or you can get a physical copy or a digital copy from online. You also want to make sure that you are intentional about how you design your questions. You want to ask questions based on facts, as opposed to asking hypothetical questions. So questions like, would you ever purchase a solution that does X? That's a terrible question because it's a hypothetical question. So we want to get rid of the would you ever kinds of questions. And a more factual question would be, have you ever purchased X or Y or Z? Have you dealt with XYZ problem? What happened? So when you ask about the past and what your target customer has done in the past, you're going to be dealing in facts. When you ask about what the customer would do, that's when you're getting into murky water there. So you also want to ask them about what happens right now in terms of the problem you want to solve for them. So I'm going to pick on the gentleman with the solution for the data-driven decision-making. Really important for you to find out what happens now. It seems there's an assumption that there isn't data-driven decision-making happening. Potentially there is, but it's just that the problem is in a particular area, and that's where your solution might be most valuable. So what happens right now when there is an electrical outage, at least from the perspective of the customer? You know, what solutions are you currently using to manage that? You know, what is your approach to, what is currently your approach to, you know, predicting when there's going to be a power outage? When was the last time you had a power outage? What happened then? How did you deal with it? What about that worked? What about that didn't work? So you want to ask these last two questions, are very important in helping you to understand what need to be the features of your solution or components of your solution to ensure they're really meeting a need for the customer. You know, what works well about the current solution? You know, why does that work well? What about that current solution doesn't work well? Why doesn't it work well? So you want to be asking these why questions. And I recommend asking why, trying to ask some version of why 3 times. And what's important about asking why after each question is that it enables you to get a deeper level of understanding. I know it feels awkward to ask why, but I promise you, if you go ahead and ask the why, you are going to get a deeper level of insight than if you don't. So yeah, so here are those are some questions that I highly recommend you ask. So now that you understand where to find your target customers, you understand what you're going to ask them. Now I want to challenge you to go ahead and do it. If you haven't already, you need to get going quickly. I think you've had some assignments that are expecting you to already do that. And you might be wondering, so what do I say? You know, if I'm reaching out to somebody who doesn't know me, what do I say? You'll come up with your own way of doing it that you find comfortable. This is what I used. I was very transparent. I said, hi, I'm an entrepreneur doing some market research. I was wondering if I could pick your brain about a couple of things because you're my target profile. You know, you want to lurk around your competition online. So figure out who your competition is, figure out where they are spending time, and you'll get to see where their customers are as well. So look, let's take an example where, you know, maybe you want to provide alternative fuel sources for women. Your competition are, maybe they are at particular stores where women go to buy, or particular markets where women go to buy the current fuel source. Go and hang around there and lurk around there and talk to the women who are coming to that particular location. You know, you can also do customer development through casual conversations. So let's say you do find a conference that is coming up, you know, and maybe that conference has an exhibition hall. Go into the exhibition hall, just have casual conversations. Go and figure out where your competition have their exhibit booths and go and stand around those exhibit booths and talk to the people passing by. And just have these casual, informal conversations. So let's move to, you know, what are some other techniques for how you can research customer problems? So we've talked about interviews, are very, very important. You know, irrespective, you should be doing those. And there are also other ways to get really good data. So one way to get really good data is to essentially deliver the value in as low cost a way as possible, even without your solution being built. So what do I mean by that? Let me give you an example to illustrate. Many of you may have heard of this, what became a major technology company called Zappos. They were selling shoes online. Before Zappos started to sell shoes, one of the co-founders had the idea. He said, I think people would be willing to purchase shoes online. But instead of just closing himself in a room and building out a whole online marketplace with shoes in it, he said, let me first test whether that's true. And he went to a real shoe store, and he took photographs of the shoes in that store, and he put them on a makeshift website. And each time somebody clicked to buy shoes on that website, he would go personally to the shoe store and buy them and mail them. So what was the benefit of doing that? The benefit of that was that he was able to see, before he spent too much time building out a solution, he was able to see, does the market want what I want to sell? Before I spend too much money building out a whole solution, let me see if the market actually wants what I want to sell. So I want to invite you now to think about, is there a way for me to give to the market what I want to sell without me building out the whole solution? Can I just put up a very cheap makeshift website where people can request my solution? I deliver it to them, and I use that process to learn, what do they like about the customer experience and offering? Are they actually buying? Another way that you can learn about your customers is before you even have something that you can sell. Run a campaign, go ahead and advertise it. You don't even have to have it built. Just go ahead and set up very simple landing page website where people can arrive and submit their email address to express interest for when the solution is ready. And you can drive them to your website using a Google Ads campaign or a Facebook Ads campaign. What that's going to do for you is it's going to confirm for you whether or not, first of all, do you have the right message? Do you have you articulated effectively the solution that they want? And also you're figuring out whether or not your marketing messaging is resonating with people. And when you are ready to go to market and sell, you will already have a list of customers who you can market to directly. So, the key premise here is the idea that you are selling before you build your full solution. You don't have to wait until you have the perfect solution to go ahead and sell it. Of course, you have to be transparent. So when people are arriving to your landing page, you're letting them know, this is coming soon. Go ahead and submit your email address to be notified once the solution is available. So let's now go to, this is something you'll probably come to a little bit later in your journey, but it is important for you to have it in mind. Many of you, all of you have a notion about, what problem you're solving for your customer. And you may or may not be correct about whether that's truly a problem. And even if you are correct, it may not be a problem that warrants building an entire business around. So how do you make sure that whatever problem you choose to focus on and build your business around is viable? Well, first of all, it's a journey to figure that out. It's a journey to make sure that you've identified a viable business problem. So I encourage you to start by making sure you have a compelling personal why for embarking on this journey, because that compelling personal why is going to keep you resilient as you go through the process of hearing no, maybe hearing that what you thought was true is actually completely untrue. You're going to need resilience for that. So make sure that you're starting this journey with a compelling personal reason for why you should do all of this. Make sure that you have a growth mindset. You know, you don't just come to this process with your assumption, and if you find your assumption is wrong, then you give up. That is not the way that it works. You are in a learning process, and you are allowing the market to beat your solution into the right shape, right? So you need to have a growth mindset. So you need to be trying to figure out, is the problem really a problem? And then you want to see if the solution that you are offering to that problem is the right fit. So you might have the right problem, but maybe your solution is not the right fit. Just as I shared with you all earlier, I thought that I could just bring the American model to Qatar. American model, you don't have to be a qualified teacher to be a substitute teacher. But I found that actually my solution was not the right solution for this problem here, which is that schools have teachers, international teachers who become unavailable. So in the process of discovering my market, I found problem, solution, fit. You then are going to later on move into trying to discover what is the product market fit. So now that you've figured out that, okay, maybe my solution is the right solution for this problem, now is the product that I've built to deliver my solution, is it a good fit for this market? And once you've managed to reshape your product so that it is a good fit for the market, and you've achieved product market fit, then you want to have what we call business model fit. So you need to figure out, okay, yes, I figured out how to offer the right product, but what is the proper business model here? So earlier, the gentleman talked about, I remember one gentleman talking about his scooters on university campuses. You know, maybe he'll find that students are willing to pay per trip. Or maybe he'll find that students want to pay based on a monthly subscription that gives them unlimited trips. Maybe he'll find that actually students are not the customer. Maybe it's actually universities that are the customer, you know, and maybe universities are willing to pay some flat rate. These kinds of things are really, really important because they decide whether or not you have a business that's going to make money. And then, of course, you need to look at what is the size of your market. You know, if you find that, well, only 5 universities in Nigeria have large enough campuses that it makes sense for the solution, then, you know, maybe, you know, you need to look at whether you have a large enough market for the business to make sense. So I'm going to close it there. I hope that this information was helpful. And I want to thank you for your attention, and I'll turn it back over to our chapter leaders to bring us to a close. And I'm looking for our chapter leaders. I'm not sure if we lost them at some point. I still see the Founder Institute Zoom, but I guess while we're waiting for them to come back online, I'm happy to answer any questions if you all have any questions. Oh, there's Ajima.
Okay, all right, Katie, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And we're very, very happy and impressed with the very practical solutions and examples that you've proffered. So founders, this is the time for Q&A. Please, you can go ahead with your questions. So I see a hand up. Umar, you can go first. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, and to Ms. Kaitia, thank you so much for the observation.
Thank you.
Based on my mini research, I've seen there are huge companies out there that are really into the data-driven decision. But the key challenge down here is the data collection process, which is very poor with the Nigerian market. But my question is that I will be dealing with the company directly, and we talked about identifying a potential customer. Do I identify the engineers or the head of the company? So I'm kind of like confused in between. Is it the users or the owner of the company or the government agencies that regulate those very particular companies? So I would like to seek a professional advice here.
Okay, so let's get disciplined with this question thing. Katie, Faiz, Baka is not around, but Dewey is around. So how would you want these questions? I've got some questions I copied from the chat. Then I got some questions I filtered from some of their assignments. So I'll take those ones last. So do we want all questions thrown and then you tear them apart, or do you want to do them one after the other? So which is going to be, I see a nod from Katie, that means we do it, they throw in all the questions and then you tear them apart. Ivy, do you have a yay for that?
Well, so it might be better to take them one by one. What do you think?
Okay. I don't know. So Faiz, which will it be? We have a tie now, so we'll go for a tiebreaker. Faiz, which is it going to be?
Yeah, because of depends on the number of questions. If you have many questions, to save time, it's better to have them, and then share them.
Okay, I have one question already asked, and then I have two hands up. So I'm taking 3 live questions. One has been asked, and then please. Okay, this is the last time now. Any founder with a question right now, other than the ones on the chat box? Any other? No. So I'm going to take Katie's option. I'm going to take Katie's option. So we'll throw in all the questions and then mentors will tear them apart. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
and if I may interject, sorry, I'm realizing I didn't properly understand you, Shegun, so apologies. I actually do prefer what Ido said. So
Ido, I see your smile. I see your smile. You won there. Okay. Okay. So the first question, you got that well. I think that's directed at you, Katie.
Yeah, sure. Well, so, and I would really welcome the other mentors to offer their perspectives too on this. But the way I see it is, you absolutely want to speak to the various stakeholders around this problem, because I think the challenge for you is you're wanting to serve, what is likely. I mean, I don't know how the Nigerian system is set up, but to my understanding, there's a single national entity that addresses the electrical grid. If it's state-wise, then potentially you have an opportunity to sell to each of the individual state electricity transmission agencies. But if not, it's a single national entity, and that is going to be a challenging, I think, client to break into, and it's also not going to be the most in terms of spreading your risk as a business, I don't think it's an ideal thing. So if you wanted to look at serving, electricity transmission entities across Africa, that's another thing. Then you have a much bigger market in that respect. And I know for sure there are other entities across Africa who have similar challenges to the one that you've described. But in either case, you want to be talking to all of the different levels of stakeholders, because you want to understand from their perspective what really, is the issue. And as well, what your solution would need to look like in order to be most helpful. I mean, maybe what you end up finding is that there are more serious structural issues in terms of decision making as opposed to just the lack of access to data. Maybe it's about the way that the entity makes decisions across the board, you know, and it's about culture within the entity, which is not something that technology would address necessarily, or you need to be doing something really innovative that way. So you might decide that actually I want to offer a solution that's more helpful down the chain. Maybe we are tapping into the existing predictive maintenance data to help customers to plan more effectively. I don't know. But the short answer is you want to be talking to all of the different levels of the ecosystem so that you have a comprehensive picture of where your solution might add the most benefit and advantage. Because maybe you won't compete, you won't want to try and compete with GE and Siemens, but maybe you do want to offer value more so at the consumer level. Maybe there's something about your solution that can do that. I mean, I don't know enough about it based on your pitch. So I hope that's answering your question. The short answer is you want to be talking to all of the different levels because that's how you get a complete picture. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you. ID, Faiz, any perspective on that?
Yeah, in addition to what Katie says, it's definitely not, you know, a straightforward answer. You can't say, oh, I want to just talk to this person and ignore the other. Most times, especially for B2B, you likely talk to many people. Right? Well, what I will just add to Katie's point is you need to understand your audience, right? So the way you talk to the CEO, right, or the business owner, what you are trying to, the value proposition you try to sell to him will likely be different from the end user. So you need to understand what's really the pain point, you know, of the CEO. He might be really interested about the, you know, high level, you know, data, you know, having a dashboard and data at his finger tips. So your pitch, you know, or your discussion should focus on that, while talking to the end user who might be the one doing the data collection, the pain point, you know, they have to do it inefficiently and so on. They are trying to make their lives easier. Then you focus on that, you know, that point, you know, and so on. And also depends on the structure of the organization, right? Sometimes some CEOs, maybe the style or the way the structure is, they allow the head of technology or probably even the end users to influence the decision. Whatever report they give him, that's what he will use, right? While in other, you know, clients, you know, he is almost the sole decision maker. So you need to, that's why complex sales is really, you know, it's not straightforward. You need to understand the environment, you know, and so on, and know the kind of meetings you have to, you know, to set. While also it might not be easy for you to get to the right decision person, and you have to start somewhere, right, within the organization. If they like what you are doing, they can now take you to the next level. So it's really, that's why it's called a complex sell. You have to, it's a case by case basis. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was me. Kingsley, we'll go on to Kingsley. Thank you, Faiz. Kingsley, your question.
Okay, sorry, where I am is very dark, so that's why my video is not on.
No problem.
All right, so the question I have is, thank you, I appreciate the various presenters. It was really insightful. Now, my question is, how do I do customer sampling for a product that provides solution only for a national or the national government? For instance, a product like pipeline vandalization, we are providing solution to prevent it. And you know, this is only for NNPC Limited or the national government. How do I sample customer opinion? Because these are the people who really need this product, who need this solution. How do I do customer sampling for such a product or such a solution? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to go first at that? ID.
Okay, let me take a stab at it. Thank you. Hi, Kingsley. So you heard a lot of people talk about customer discovery, customer archetypes, persona definition. I think the short answer to your question is that you need to. So the purpose for all of that conversation around discover your customer, right? Customer discovery, persona definition, customer archetypes, right? All of that is actually for your benefit, right? So it's for you, the solution developer, right? To acquire a new acquire an understanding of how the person for whom you are building the solution views what you are bringing in their hierarchy of priorities. That's the ultimate purpose of everything that was discussed in customer development, okay? So if you have a client, let's call it a high-level customer, a client, well, a B2B customer in this case, multinational or an NNPC, right? A federal government parastatal, right? And that's your customer. Ultimately, that customer will translate to human beings that will use your solution. So even though NNPC is the customer, for the purpose of customer development, the human beings within and in the periphery of NNPC that are going to interact with your solution or influence your solution through purchase order, through approval memo, are the people that you are going to interview, like all the three mentors elaborated on. Okay, so I think that your question was majorly around how do you identify who the customer is, but it's the way you frame the question that seems to confuse you. So there are two things here. The first thing is what I've just said, reframing your mental definition of customer to be the human beings in various capacities that will use or interact with your solution as the people that you need to interview. That's number one. Number two is finding out to what degree of relevance is everything that you have been thinking about around this problem and how to solve it, is it to them? So as a solution, there's often a misconception in solution development and consultancies and the smart space, right? Sometimes smart people make the mistake of thinking that they are smart enough to know what the customer's problem is. And I say this with all respect. A consultant is an expert in solution delivery. So a consultant in IT, for instance, is an expert in the range of solutions in technology, right? And which one to apply in what situation. But the ultimate expert in a particular customer's problem is nobody but that customer in themselves. So imagine yourself, anybody on this call, all founders on this call, right? Imagine any of you driving on any of the streets of Abuja and you see a vulcanizer on the road. Some images automatically conjure in your mind, but you cannot be as much an expert in the problems that a vulcanizer faces every day as much as that vulcanizer himself. So that's the point of customer development. The point of customer development is to help you overcome the smart weakness, the smart people's weakness, which is, oh, it's not a vulcanizer. Is XYZ per day, is to overcome assumptions and go and really understand that in a vulcanizer's life, in a road transport worker's life, in the Ojota Park and whatever, the Jabi Park, right? Utako, right? In the life of those people, this solution in its current form that you are bringing actually may not matter to them. They'll look at it once and they'll never come back to it again. Maybe. Right? So you're trying to eliminate that possibility early on. I think I've slightly, exceeded the scope of the question, but I just wanted to quickly drop that point. So the first thing is you frame the customer as the right person. The customer in this case that you want to interview and learn about is not NNPC, the corporate legal entity. It's the users, the human beings around and within NNPC. The second point is the purpose for all of this exercise is for you to acquire an understanding of how these people see the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think, Faiz, you have a perspective to that?
Yeah, I think from what I understand, this is more like business to government, kind of business. And so I would say it depends on at what stage are you at. And if you're at the stage of trying to secure the business, then you likely be talking to, try to talk to the decision makers, right? Who are the people that will influence or will decide on this project. And then maybe after you've secured the contract, while building the solution, because this kind of project, I'm just trying to wrap around my head around, is it really a typical, startup kind of thing, or this is a big project thing, right? So, but if it's a big project and you've secured the deal, then in building the solution, that's when you need to talk to the, the end users to understand really what's the problem and how best are you going to develop it, right? So this is just my understanding and take.
And if I can add to that, thank you, Shagun. Yes, just wanting to add to that, I think, you want to, as Ido said, you're naming who are the individual professionals who interact with the problem in some sense or another. So these issues that your solution addresses, those issues happen, so you talk to the people who are involved, you name what are the specific functional roles involved, and then you want to connect to people who are directly sitting in those positions and ask and talk to them about the issue, how they're currently addressing it, etc. And then there's also the opportunity to try and go directly to the state agency that is addressing this issue. Request a meeting. I don't know how it works there, whether you can make a phone call or send an email or physically go in person and request to inquire. And I would encourage you to be, transparent about that. I've heard actually that in various states in Nigeria, there's quite a lot of innovation around providing local businesses with access to opportunities to serve local government. So you also want to try and connect through whatever is your small business services entity and say, hey, look, I'm trying to connect with this particular sector. Can you make introductions for me? Can you open doors for me? Because that's part of their role. So I'm hearing from people on the ground, that depending on what state you are in, there is this kind of support available. So use your networks. So yeah, I know I'm sort of reiterating what each of the previous mentors are saying, which is that one, you want to identify who are the different humans who interact with this issue, what are their roles, and you go and talk to them. And two, it's about, given the phase that you're at, which is that you're just trying to understand, I recommend going through the government bodies that are supposed to be supporting small enterprises and entrepreneurship, and saying, hey, I'd like to have this kind of access. Can you open these doors for me? So I hope that's helpful as well.
Thank you. I believe that's helpful. So the last live question is from Paul. Paul.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, founders. Thank you, FI, and thank you, mentors. Really inspiring session. So my question falls around the customer sprint, customer validation, the entire process. Now, I want to know, if you're building a solution that talks or caters to a large segment or a number of different buyer personas, is it possible to speed up this process, or is it better to make it a continuous process? And I'll give an example of what I'm trying to ask. For example, at Africa Wealth Initiative, our solution focuses on improving farmers' productivity, reducing their post-harvest loss, and the solution helps us to unlock a huge portion of the Africa food market, which is going to be about $1 trillion by 2030. Now, there's a B2B component, there's a B2C component, then there's the farmer component. So for the farmers, we're working with them in their communities by creating what we call near farm processing centers to ensure that we can provide solutions, whether aggregated, whether solutions from SMEs, whether solutions from us as an organization. Then for the other end of our solution, we are working with consumers, right? Retail consumers. We're also working with food companies that can offtake produce in large quantities. And we are integrating SMEs providing agro-allied services as a marketplace. So my question is, in working to create buyer personas, trying to validate your customers, how do you speed up this process? Because our solution is technological, is also physical, or do you just make it a continuous process as you continue to build on the solution? Thank you.
Okay, so who's taking on the? Okay, right.
You sound like a very, very big organization doing a lot of things. So I would say, honestly, from what you've explained, I think you're trying to do a lot at the same time. And that would, you might not be able to focus and really understand, what works very well, what's going to be a very sustainable and profitable business for you, right? Because you are spreading yourself too thin. Though except if you really have all the funds you need in this world. And even if you do, my own recommendation or suggestion, you need to break these things down into smaller problems and take on, one thing at a time, right? And by the time you figure out, you first of all maybe do your analysis and identify which of the things you are doing can be more efficient, it's simpler and maybe even more profitability, and focus on it. When you get that right, then you can take on other things. The second suggestion I'll give is to think of outsourcing some of the things that you want to do. Maybe you can come back to them later, right? For example, if you are talking about working with other businesses and so on, are there other people doing that? Can you form a partnership so that you take off that, your headache, and you just identify a win-win situation with your partners, right? Or working with the local farmers directly? Do you really think that's where you have the strength? Do you have the resources to do that? Or are there people already doing that very well? How do you collaborate? So in a summary, I think because you are doing too many things, so it's going to be difficult for you to even know where to focus on and do it, very, very well. So my suggestion is just identify the things you are doing and see which one do you think you can prioritize based on your strengths, and focus more on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Faiz. Okay. Anyone else want to jump at that question? Katie, Heidi?
And I think what I'll add to what Faiz said is, in a way, you want to sort of just pick a corner. People like to use this example, although I don't like it because I'm mostly vegetarian, but they say, if you want to eat an elephant, you need to pick one part, you figure out, where am I going to start? And you go from there, and you pick that one small corner and you do one bite at a time. And as Faiz said, I mean, that focus allows you to have some more depth in terms of your work, to get insight and sufficient depth so that you are, you're not just a sort of a centimeter deep and a mile wide, and really not having the kind of insight you need to move things forward effectively. So I echo that.
Thank you, Katie. At least we know Katie is on the watch list of vegetarians now. She's giving an example of an animal. Okay, at least we'll pardon that. Heidi, any insight into that?
So the other mentors have mentioned the things that I have mentioned. I got the hints that what he's working on is not optimally framed, right? So he's trying to, they at Africa World Initiative are trying to do a lot of things at the same time. As you progress in the Founder Institute curriculum, you will soon come across a concept called the rule of one, okay? I can't remember exactly how it goes now, but solve one problem for one customer using one product with one revenue stream, one business model, one revenue stream. So one killer feature. So you really, so it's again one of those things that we inherit from the kind of educational background that we all come from, which encourages you to try and spread out and know a lot of things, right? But in the world of startup building, your best friend is focus. Framing a small problem appropriately and drilling into that problem will get you more gold, if I may use colorful graphic terms, will get you more gold out of the ground than having a wide frame of reference where you will be diluting your efforts. Let me put it like that. So that's the key thing that I really wanted to talk about, even more important than the other things that you asked. Thank you very much.
Well, and if I could just very quickly add to that, I think that, as Ido said, focus is very important. And, in our context, and when I say our, I mean in the African context, I mean, for entrepreneurs, it does become important to be ready to build out the ecosystem around you, right? Because, it's not like Silicon Valley, where maybe you have a lot of other entities that are solving the other problems around your problem. So I understand the temptation to just be like, okay, well, in order for this one solution to work, I need all of these other things to be in place. Otherwise, this one thing doesn't work. It's reasonable for an entrepreneur to have a vision that they may go in that direction, because this is what is happening in outside of Western entrepreneurial ecosystems. You do see entrepreneurs who do end up having to build a whole ecosystem around their core solution. The issue is that focus is still important, and you do need to pick a corner of where you're gonna start as you have that grander vision. I get it that you're like, well, in order for us to do this, we need to enable 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 this as well. At the same time, you do still need to focus and make sure that that core around which you're trying to build everything else makes sense for you to pursue. I know we're talking in very high level, theoretical, non-concrete terms, but Paul, I hope that is giving you something to work with.
Okay, so we're coming, thank you for that. We're coming to, let me just, the two questions we had on the platform, I think probably, if you didn't take anything away from the discussion today, respectfully from every mentor, I took something away from Katie today, and she said something about the universe of stakeholders. So I think that simply responds to the two questions I have. Customer acquisition, is it for products that have to do with an organization? Do you engage the organization directly, or the users of the application in the organization? I think it's about spreading your tentacles wide enough into the market. And the second one was, how do we handle customer feedback in a B2B model? Is it enough to talk and relate with the CEO, or we need to get to the end users? I think it still also has to do with getting as much response from the market as possible. So I'll take one question. I'll just push one question. It came from one of the assignments. I selected this carefully from a long list. I've been checking them up because I see that the discussions have responded to this. But I think this might be something the founders will need in the coming week. It says here, one of the many areas, given that Africa and particularly Nigeria, people are always suspicious and therefore are often reluctant to give out personal and business information. We know all of that. So what do you think these founders should do as the best approach to get potential customers to be receptive to their customer development initiative? They're going to be going out this week, and you've all advised them, get out of the rooms, get out of the offices, and get into the market and get this information. People don't give out information. They're very secretive. How do these guys break that wall? Please help them. So we take every mentor, please, you just have to have a word for them on that. So
I'll jump in
Katie.
on this one. Sure. Yeah, I would say that's part of why I suggest starting with your personal network, because first of all, those in your network, they know you, so they're going to answer your calls. And then you leverage their name to get additional contacts, which is that snowball methodology. But that's my perspective on it, is use your networks, and then from there you utilize the people in your network to open further doors for you.
Thank you. Yeah, who's going next? First, ID was going next. Okay.
I think at the on the head is a networking issue, and I don't know if it's one of the sessions you will do later on, but it's something you should start paying attention to now, right? So if you think why this question came up is because you are thinking about customer development as a kind of exercise. Okay, I've finished thinking about the questions I want to ask. Next week, I will start going out, or which doors will I knock, as a stranger, and how will they, welcome me, and all sorts of things. So it's not that straightforward, right? So networking is a very key area, and skill you need to start working on as a startup founder or an entrepreneur, right? So if you already, as time goes on, especially in your field, you have to start, creating that, getting the contact, how do you, maintain the relationship and so on. So when things come up, it's easy for you, in your brain, you're already thinking of, let me talk to this person, I need an intro, to this person. Oh, does he know, who knows this person, and so on. But otherwise, obviously, it will be awkward, right? Imagine, a stranger just comes in and knock on your door and he says, I'm working on this, I want to get this information. Definitely the kind of response you get, will be different from when you maybe someone calls him and say, oh, I know this, this brilliant chap, and he's working on this interesting project. He'll come and meet you for, for some discussion and so on. So definitely the response will be totally different, right? So emphasis on networks. It's not easy, I understand, your challenge, but you have to start somewhere. Founder Institute might be your first point of call now. You should start talking to the people around, the mentors, the organizers and so on. They might have some referrals for you. And then, of course, as you move on, events, conferences and stuff like that, don't joke with them, right? Any opportunity you get, attend these events. That's because you meet like minds and people are more open, and then build your relationship. I hope this helps.
Thank you, Faiz. Heidi.
Thank you very much, Faiz. Thank you very much, Katie. I'll just add that, yes, there might be a widespread reluctance of people to share information, right? Just as the premise of the question is. However, I'd like to challenge that a little bit and say, at the end of the day, these people are human beings. And if you approach them with obvious empathy rather than solutioning, rather than I have come with a solution and I want your feedback. So you have two choices. Option one is I knock on your door, you open the door, and I barrage you with with the solution that I have, with the solution that I believe you have, and I have analyzed it and solved it in my office, and I have come to ask your opinion about that solution, right? So I do acknowledge that there will be some hesitance to share quality or confidential or even important critical information. But I think that there's also the place for empathy, and that's the point I'm making. Option one is you come in there and you are 100% logical with zero emotional quotient, right? Emotional intelligence. Option two is, and I think that Faiz hinted at this a little bit in the beginning of his comments. You knock on the door, I knock on the door, you open the door, anybody in this room, open the door, and it's a dialogue. So if you remember Katie's slide, it's more of exploratory. What problems did you, even though I have some ideas that I came with, the conversation is not about the ideas I came with. The conversation is about you and your universe. What are your challenges in this area? How have you solved them or gone about solving them? How efficient are those ways that you have been solving them? What does it cost you? Financial cost, social cost, psychological cost, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's more exploratory. That way, I believe we will have some higher degree of success than if you just approach people with, I have come with the solution to all the problems in your life, right? So I'd just like to add that to everything that has been said. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I can just jump on that point really quickly, because it's so important that actually I recommend that for those first conversations, I recommend not even talking about your solution, actually. I recommend not even mentioning it, not even offering it. Of course, people will want to know. One thing I have done when I've done customer development conversations is I have said, I will be happy to answer at the end of the interview, but I want to make sure that I don't bias your responses. And then I'll tell them at the end. But generally, I recommend not even talking about it in that interview, because as Ido said, the second you seem like you're delivering a sales pitch, people do shut down. But if, as he said, you're just coming with empathy and curiosity, it's a different energy to the conversation. And also, when you want to circle back later on, when your solution, your MVP is ready, they have a very different receptivity to that conversation, because the last time they spoke to you, you were listening. So I just wanted to really punctuate that point Ido made about how are you coming to that conversation. Do not come in sales mode in the first, at least in the first conversation. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, mentors. Thank you, founders. I would hand over to Lady A to wrap up the session. It's been wonderful.
Yes. And we've spent quite some time. Thank you so much, Katie, Ido, Faiz, and Abubakar. Always, we're always grateful at FI Abuja for all the support that you offer through mentoring. So please, this topic is very, very key. We've spent a lot of time, so we'll also need you to also set up your office hours, because the founders will be coming round, you know, for more support to enable their specific, you know, issues for their different startup ideas. We'll be very grateful for that. Founders, you do the needful. Just to let you know, your sprint for this week on customer development is going to take you in terms of time frame, 30 hours, 30 minutes. So you're going to have to note that, let all your working group members know, 30 hours, that's the amount of time you need to complete your sprints. So it's a lot of work, but you want to get it right with customer development. Let me quickly share, let's take a look at resources that you need to read that will also answer to some of your questions. There are articles on customer guides, customer archetype, which has been talked about. So you need to read that. Market research templates, then finding customers to interview, 14 ways to find customers to interview. So there's just so much, you know, that you can deploy. Then how to find customers and learn from customer interviews. Then this one says where to look when you don't have an established network. Okay, so that's also answers to that of networking. Then customer interviews and feedback, the correct and incorrect ways to interview potential customers. Then get customer feedback to build a better MVP, how to validate your startup idea through customer interviews. Then customer interview sample questions, customer interview success metrics, then so there's just so much resource that is embedded in your back end that will help all of your work. So barring no further discussions or questions, would like to call it a day. And I wish you all a happy night rest. And the WhatsApp groups are there, so any questions you have or concerns, you can always feel free to connect with us through WhatsApp and also office hours. So good night, everyone, and sleep well. Bye.